Today, we're going to be talking about some of the most intense FNAF fan games ever created. Every new night introduces another challenge, another threat, or another twist, making the experience constantly feel bigger and more dangerous. Some of these games never give you a chance to settle in, so let's get into it. Insanity is a broad term with different meanings depending on the context, generally referring to a severely disordered state of mind, extreme folly, or a legal designation. It is not an official clinical or psychiatric diagnosis, but rather a catch-all for various forms of profound mental derangement. Truly, insanity is one of the most interesting things that human beings can face, and the various causes of it are truly fascinating to read about. Five Nights at Freddy's games often use the subject matter of insanity, but I don't feel like many of them can ever really do it right. The game we'll be covering today is a little different, that game being Crawl Space Insanity Remastered, one of the newest, coolest, and most challenging FNAF fan games the community has ever seen. We're going to be diving into every single corner of this game's mechanics, storyline, and piecing together everything you need to know. So join me today as we dive into the long-awaited video of Crawl Space Insanity Remastered. All right. I'm not at all ready to start talking about this game. As I'm writing this part of the script, it is currently 6:34 p.m. May 28th of 2026. Throughout this video, I will update you on the progress so you can get a small window of understanding of how much this game has destroyed me. The game opens to a nice prelude, and already I'm upset as this brings up a pet peeve I notice in a lot of games, not just FNAF. For some reason, the subtitles are on the bottom of the screen during the prelude. While that is totally normal for subtitles, when there's nothing to look at in the middle of the screen and it's just this fucking spiral pattern, then move the subtitles to the middle so that it takes up more dead space. I just really hate how this looks. I know it's a nitpick and it doesn't matter at all. But anyways, the prelude reads as follows.
Hello, Fritz. You have fallen. He got you. The floor beneath you shattered, and you screamed as you barreled towards the bottom of the hole. Did you see them? You could have saved them. I will make sure you never forget that, and you will make sure to stay alive the best you can. That's all you will do, and that's all that needs to be done. That's all. For now, you live in the hole.
So, it appears we play as Fritz in this game. And now is probably the time I should mention the thing everybody already knows about this game, just in case there's one or two people who are living under a rock. Crawl Space is a part of the Insanity Remastered trilogy, which is a retelling of the original Dormitibus story, minus all the disgusting shit. If you want to learn more about that, you can check out my video all about the original Dormitibus after this one. With this, we load into night one and we see that this game looks incredibly fucking boring. Let's start by going over the tools at our disposal though. To start, we have our cameras and our flashlight, which are both tied to a battery. It drains really fast, but if you're not using either of those tools, it will recharge itself. That's really all the tools. The phone guy asks us if we know who we are. Of course, we know that we're playing as Fritz and we're currently in a place known as the Hole. We're told that we have to save them, probably referring to the children, but we obviously have to save ourselves first. So let's quickly take a look at all four threats this first night introduces, because yes, I'm serious, there's actually four threats on this stupid fucking night. I'm going to talk about Bonnie, Chica, and Freddy all at the same time, since I'm not kidding, they all do the exact same thing. Yes, I'm serious. Each of them will try to approach you via the giant hallway in front of you. If they ever appear, just pull your camera up to hide from them until they go away. That's literally it. Foxy is somehow even easier. When you see him in the hallway, just flash your light at him like FNAF 2 and he'll go away. Yep, that's it. This is boring as fuck, but I'm willing to bet that you already know exactly why it's boring as fuck, and if you don't, then get ready for something crazy. Once the night hits 2 a.m., this happens. Yep. That's right. The prelude actually includes a fake night 1 and we're booted to the real title screen. You didn't really think I was about to talk about a game with a loop that boring, did you? I would never do that. All right, let's get into the real nightmare that is this godforsaken game. Jumping into the actual night, there is already a lot to go over, so I'm going to try to break it down as best I can while making it as easy to understand as possible, because there really is a lot to learn here. Let's start by talking about the phone call. Phone guy tells us about Bonnie, who we'll talk about in a second, and flipping. I will mention what flipping means later. This game uses two systems: sanity and stability. Throughout the night, your stability will decrease. You'll notice that your sanity never decreases and actually stays full the entire night. How do you increase your stability? Well, that's where this game introduces flipping. Its central mechanic that is actually so fucking AIDS, it actually made me question whether or not I was actually going to make a video on this. When you flip, it quite literally inverts your entire monitor so that everything is backwards. And yes, that does also include your mouse. This game fucks your entire actual monitor and flips everything around. It's easily the most nauseating and confusing mechanic I've ever dealt with in my entire life. It is fucking brutal. When you flip, your stability will start to increase again. However, in this flipped version of the whole, your sanity will start to decrease, and vice versa once you flip back to the normal version of the game. This is a super fucking cool mechanic, I can't even lie. Probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen. But of course, as you could imagine, playing in flipped mode is one of the most challenging things you will ever do in your entire life. Now, as much as we could talk about that mechanic, this video is already going to be incredibly long, so let's just move on to talking about the next mechanic, that being the power system. Not much to explain here, honestly. It's just a power system from that prelude night. Using things causes it to decrease, not using it makes it recharge. Pretty simple. Of course, we also have our camera and flashlight to go along with that. The final mechanic to mention before we move on to the threat this night introduces are the vents to the left and right of you, because as you can probably tell, this office setup is pretty much just the FNAF 2 layout for the most part. You can seal these vents to the left and right of you, albeit only one at a time. And the reason you would need to do that is because of the only threat this night introduces, Fallen Bonnie. While yes, Fallen Bonnie is technically the only character introduced on this night, he has children. Why? I have no fucking idea who's cracking this monstrosity. Literally nobody, but whatever. He uses his kids to kill us, which is just a crazy thing to say now that I'm saying it out loud. Bonnie will try to make his way to either camera 4 or 5. These cameras are obviously tied to your vents. Once he enters one of these cameras, he will make the quietest sound cue of all time. But since he's the only threat right now, you can really just watch him. Eventually, he will send one of his kids through the vents he's standing at, and you'll have to quickly seal the vent before the kid turns you into an Arby's meat mountain and ravages your insides. Now, there's no penalty for keeping your vent sealed. No power is drained, and your stability and sanity will not decrease. However, if Bonnie notices a vent is sealed for too long, he'll just hot bottom over to the other vent. So the strategy for this night is really just watching him and sealing the vent when you need to. You may be wondering where flipping actually becomes needed, and I'll explain that more a bit later. But for now, sometimes your screen will glitch out, and when it does, you'll have to flip to fix it. I'd flip every time you have to seal a vent to really help you get used to it, since if you want to complete this game fully, you'll have to be doing it a lot. But with that, night 1 comes to an end, and we can move on to the first post-night minigame, which starts with the text, "You won't like what's out there." And if what's out there is Blackout, then you'd be completely correct. I don't like him very much at all, actually. Before the minigame begins, we see what appears to be Cake Bear. I couldn't imagine who else this would be. Moving to the right, we see the text, "Not yet," and then the minigame begins by telling us that we need to hold our breath to face death. Just then, we're thrown into a fucking crawl space. Get it? Like the name of the fucking game? Isn't that so fucking cool? Laugh, bitch! Laugh! Anyways, during this minigame, we have to control our breathing and our blinking for some reason. Maybe we're trapped in a spring lock suit or something like that. I'm not really sure. You can breathe by holding space and blink by holding control. Obviously, we need to keep these bars up all the way. Throughout the entire minigame, you'll be able to hear two people having a conversation. Barely. You will barely be able to hear two people having a conversation. I can't lie. It is really fucking hard to hear, and I actually have no idea what they're talking about. If you guys want to tell me, please do. too, because I do not have it in me to decipher the several minutes of muffled audio during these minigames. Of course, there is also a threat to defend ourselves against during this minigame, that being Angel Bonnie. He is incredibly easy to deal with. Occasionally, he will appear on your left side, and all you have to do is hold your breath, and he'll go away. Easy as fuck. Once you beat the minigame, you get the phrase, "back to sleep now," which tells me that the night sections are maybe dreams or nightmares, and then the crawl space is actually when Fritz is awake. Meaning that we're playing as a man trapped inside of a suit, stuffed into a crawl space, which is some of the most fucked up stuff you could ever imagine, and I love it. And by the way, I'm pretty sure that this is in reference to probably Fritz seeing the deaths of the children, not doing anything about it, and then William stuffing him in a suit and putting him in a crawl space like a fucking telltale heart type thing. Which, that's fucking badass. That's badass as shit, I can't lie. Anyways, moving on to night 2, and for a small update, it is currently 7:13 p.m. Night 2 introduces 2 new threats, and along with it, 2 new mechanics. As if this game and its flipping wasn't already stressful enough. The phone guy really just tells us that we're one step closer to our goal. That's about it. The 2 new mechanics are our alarms and our flash beacon. Most of the cameras have alarms. You can just hold the alarm button to make them blare. And on specifically camera 5, we have a flash beacon. We'll go over why we need them in just a second. The 2 threats introduced on this night are Fallen Chica and Fallen Foxy, each of them using one of the new mechanics on this night. Let's start with Fallen Chica. Chica moves around randomly in the cameras and will at random points stop moving to sing. When she starts singing, you have to find her on the cameras. Yes, I know, it's fucking torture all of the time for me in these games. Then sound the alarm on whichever camera she's on. She can actually only attack cameras 1, 3B, 3C, and 6. So there's not a whole lot of cameras you'll have to check, which is why I'm choosing not to complain about it too much. She's not a very complicated character, but when you're playing with your entire monitor reversed, it's really fucking hard to click anything at all. Moving on to Fallen Foxy. Foxy will try to attack you via camera 5. Once he gets there, all you have to do is use the flash beacon and he'll go away. Something you'll notice about all of the characters in this game is that they're all not too difficult. It really and truly is just the flipping mechanic that makes this game so fucking hard. Something to note about camera 5 is that both Foxy and Bonnie can't be present at the same time. So lucky us, if we see Bonnie there, then we know Foxy will never attack us until Bonnie leaves. Really, the best strategy I can give for night 2 is to flip at 1 a.m. and stay flipped until you hear Chica sing. Once she does, you'll have just enough time to unflip and deal with her, then rebalance your flips for the rest of the night. This makes it so that you don't have to do most of the work while flipped, since Chica is definitely the worst to deal with while you are because of how many clicks she requires. But with that, we get the same minigame as before with Cake Bear, and then we go into the crawl space again. This time around, Angel Chica will be added. She's pretty much the same as Bonnie, except she appears on your right, and when she does, just close your eyes until she leaves. Once again, we hear people talking a bunch, except I can't figure out what the hell they're even saying, so let's just move on to night 3. Night 3 is where this game really starts to piss me off. I'm not even lying, it makes me so fucking angry. The only reason is because one of the threats this night introduces, that being Fallen Freddy, the most confusing and annoying character ever conceived by mankind. Fallen Freddy will try to attack your generators in camera 7 and 4. We obviously cannot allow this to happen or he's gonna stick 8 pencils in my ass, which I really don't want. Once he enters one of those cameras, an alarm sound will play. When you open the cameras, you'll see a wire task from Among Us. I'm completely serious, but you shouldn't do the puzzle right away. No. Instead, what you need to do is find Freddy on either camera 7 or 4, then check to see if he's wearing his top hat. If he is wearing it, then you need to complete the task. However, if he isn't wearing his hat, then you need to complete the task incorrectly. I'm not fucking joking. What the hell kind of mechanic is that? That's like the most retarded shit I've ever heard of in my entire life. Now, Fallen Freddy is really annoying, but he's somehow nowhere near as annoying as someone else will be talking about in a little bit. Because this night also introduces another new threat, that being Fallen Puppet. Fallen Puppet will randomly show up inside of your office. When he does, you'll need to quickly waste all of your power. The fastest way to do this is by using your flash beacon, since it empties it immediately. So overall, it's really easy to deal with. However, as you could imagine, you don't really want to be wasting all of your power. And that's because of what I'm about to tell you. Because we're about to talk about how this game really rapes your ass. Night 3 upgrades each character we've seen so far from the first 2 nights and just makes them way fucking worse. So let's start with the least terrible, Fallen Chica. All Night 3 adds to her is giving her the ability to also go to cameras 4 and 5, which makes her way worse because she is just a finder on the camera character. So more cameras equals less fun for Dxtr. Fallen Foxy gets the additional attack ability of turning into Withered Foxy, just jumping ass naked into your hallway and flashing his cock to you like the Fent Walker I saw in the park the other day. Just flash your flashlight at him and he'll go away. But now we can move on to literally the worst thing you've ever seen in your entire life. Fallen Bonnie and his stupid fucking kids. For some reason, they also give Bonnie the ability to turn into Withered Foxy. However, he doesn't require you to flash your light at him. You'll never in a million fucking years guess what you have to do to stop him. Here, I'll even give you a multiple choice. When Fallen Foxy enters your hallway, do you have to A, hold your flashlight on him until you run out of power, then wait for the power to turn back on and then flip? B, flip the screen and turn the desk fan off? C, use the alarm on camera 4 or 5 to drag him there and then deal with him normally? Or D, find all 3 of his children that randomly appear on the cameras before he rails you? If you said D, then congrats, you picked the option that would have made me quit the game. No, thank God it's not that. But for anybody who said B, flip the screen and then turn off the desk fan, you'd be completely right because that's actually what you have to do. Why the fuck does this make him go away? I have no idea, but this is the most frustrating thing to do during this game and I fucking hate it with all my soul. The strategy for this night is really tough, I can't lie. Really only flip when necessary or after you deal with Bonnie and the vent attack. Most threats aren't too terrible to deal with flipped, in all honesty, and you should be getting used to it at least a little bit at this point. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention Chica. She can appear on the same camera at the same time as the other characters, and if she does, most of the time you'll just lose. I can't even lie. It's really hard to deal with 2 characters at a time. However, I would recommend dealing with Chica first since most times she'll end up being the bigger problem. Oh yeah, and don't forget that Freddy and the puppet were added on this night. I know you've probably forgotten about that after the 3 other character upgrades, but yes, 2 more threats were introduced this time. Just fucking kill me. I'll also mention here 2 death minigames I stumbled across. I don't know how many there are, but here are 2 I got. Basically, one of them has Fritz finding William stuffing the kids in the suits, and then William puts Fritz in a suit as well. No witnesses type shit. And that confirms my theory that that is why we are present in the crawl space. The other minigame is just a cutscene. It's a conversation between Fritz and another guy named Peter. Peter tells Fritz about the kids and that if he knows anything about it or learns anything to let him know. Hate to break it to you, buddy, but judging by the other minigame we just saw, I'm willing to bet that Fritz isn't going to be able to tell you shit. The post-night 3 crawl space section is much the same as the others, except this time you will also get to see Angel Foxy. His mechanic is pretty easy. You won't be able to see him, but you will hear him making a clicking sound. When you hear it, just spam blink until he goes away. The only slight problem is that Bonnie and Chica can attack at the same time, but always be sure to make Foxy a priority and you'll be just fine. Once again, I can't fucking hear a word that the 2 guys are saying above us since the animatronics are so loud in my fucking ear. So if anybody wants to give us a summary, I'll pin your comment. Moving on to night 4, it is currently 7:48 p.m. for me, so I think I'm making pretty decent time. But during the phone call, we're told that camera 8 has been fixed. And of course, the new threats on this night will relate to that camera. But first, I want to talk about Fallen Bonnie again. Why do I want to do that? Well, he's been given yet another fucking mechanic for some reason. And the best part is that the phone guy doesn't tell you about it, which is just really cool. It's literally the same as his hallway mechanic, except this time he'll appear directly in front of you, which I will admit did scare the shit out of me the first time I saw it. Anyways, on to the new threats this night introduces, because yes, even though this game has already turned into a clusterfuck, it is adding even more to our plate. And the first to talk about is Fallen Spring Bonnie. Spring Bonnie is pretty easy. Probably the easiest character in the entire game. He is who is in camera 8, and throughout the night, he's just gonna try to stand up. If he does, then it's GG and you fucking lose. So sound the alarm on his camera and he'll sit back down. Pretty much he's just a music box, because of course this game had to add one of those. Now let's move on to probably the worst character on Earth, who was just behind Bonnie, in my opinion, Fallen Fredbear. Because the DeviantArt names haven't gotten cringe enough yet. Fredbear wants to attack you through your hall, and he's really good at it. Because unlike every other character in this game, Fredbear makes no sound cues ever, which is actually the worst thing on the planet. Once he's in your hallway, all you have to do is turn your fan off. Thankfully, this time you don't also have to flip. I really don't know why Bonnie has you do that. But what really makes Fredbear bad is the synergies he has. Because not only can Bonnie and Fredbear be in the hall at the same time, but Bonnie and Foxy can be in the hall at the same time. And fuck it, I'm not kidding at all. All three of them can be in the hallway at the same time. This is actually just the worst shit anybody could ever create. This game is so fucking hard, it's not even funny. What the fuck am I even supposed to do about this bullshit? The strategy for this night is ass cheeks, I can't even lie. Really only flip your screen for Bonnie and when the screen flickers. Fuck everything else. Keep your camera on 5 to check for Foxy and never leave a vent sealed after dealing with Bonnie. Whenever you deal with a camera threat, either Freddy, Bonnie, Foxy, or Chica, check your hallway and deal with whatever the fuck is there. Then check on Spring Bonnie and hope you weren't too slow, and repeat. This night is so fucking AIDS, it's really hard to put into words. And we still have another night to talk about. Look at the length of this video. We're not even close to being done yet. During the crawl space section, we get introduced to Angel Freddy. All he does is appear in front of us, and all you have to do is lift your hands off your keyboard and mouse until he goes away. Basic strategy here is always deal with Foxy first no matter what. Then deal with Freddy, then deal with Bonnie and Chica. Crawl space sections are pretty simple. There's not much to talk about, so let's just move on to night 5. Night 5 is literally just fucking chaos. All of the characters' AI are turned up to the fucking moon. I spent so much time on this night, it's not even funny. Probably one of the most challenging nights I've ever completed from any FNAF game ever, and I'm not even lying. But once we reach 4 a.m. is where this night gets interesting. At 4 a.m. a new threat appears and all of the other characters deactivate. This threat is Yellow Bear, and let's just say he wants that juicy booty badly. Once he spawns, he'll choose to start at any camera he wants and slowly make his way to your hallway. You can stall him on the cameras by using your alarm, but he'll never move backwards. But you honestly don't even need to do that because once he's in your hallway, you can just stall him for the rest of the night by spamming the lights, so he's honestly really easy. The general strategy for this night has you start by focusing on cameras 8, 4, and 5 because Bonnie and Spring Bonnie will almost always attack you first. After dealing with them, check the hallway and camera 5 for Foxy every time you deal with Chica. Only ever check Spring Bonnie after the first time when you have a small bit of downtime, since he has to make it through 5 different phases before he kills you anyways. This night is really fucking hard until 4 a.m. and playing it for yourself would be the best way to understand it because I quite literally do not have the vocabulary to explain to you how hard it really is. The minigame for this night is weird. There's no crawl space, but we do get the Cake Bear minigame, and this time we're a much more realistic version of Cake Bear. We walk to the right for a very long time and stumble across a withered Cake Bear, I think. I have no idea what this is, and we get the following cutscene.
I'm glad you came all this way to see me, Rats. I'd thought you'd forgotten about me. I think you realize I'm not truly your friend, but I have no reason to lie anymore. I never did. It's out of control. Things used to be so much simpler. I never had to lie. I could just exist. Now look at what I've gone and done. Inviting her and trusting her to respect what I've wanted, what I've already done. If they're a human being, a human conscious, they can never be truly trusted. I guess you already understand that. After what that man did to you, you were destined to die for so long. We've been destined to die. We were all just waiting for it. We weren't even excited. We weren't scared. We just, no, aren't you tired of this? Hasn't it gotten old? It feels like it's been an eternity. We're worn. How much longer are we going to be pushed around? Fall back onto monotony. It's better than piling on to this abomination and seeing that it crashes. Return to your old life. Kill the story. Escape.
Now, while that was weird, what we're about to see gets even fucking weirder. After completing the game, if you click load game, you'll see the words free yourself, and you'll be brought to a Pong minigame where you have to defend a fan from a bunch of whatever the fuck. I have no idea what I'm doing right now. This reminds me of the random Undertale fight from Midnight at Star Stage. After you complete this minigame, we move on to truly the most insane shit of all fucking time. So let's start by saying that this game has 3 endings. What we just saw was the first ending, and now we're going to talk about the last 2. And if you look at the length of this video, you'll be able to tell that we're still going to be here a while. It is currently 8:30 p.m. for me while scripting, so let's lock in. Right here starts the boss fight against the Star, and it's split up into 3 different acts. So let's start with Act 1, which has us inside of the crawl space, and the only threat is obviously the Star itself, and it has 2 forms of attack. The first has him appear on either our left or right side. You will have to spam click on his nose to make him go away. Before, I could argue that the retarded mechanics in this game were because I thought the night sections were nightmares, so it didn't have to make sense, but I'm pretty certain we're completely conscious during these crawl space sections, so I have no defense for why this makes any sense, because it really just fucking doesn't. His second attack will have him say 4 random numbers. You just have to type those numbers on your keyboard for some reason, and that'll make him go away. Alright, now this really just makes no sense, because what could our character even be doing that would have anything to do with the number pad? Fuck it, whatever. Let's just move on to Act 2. Act 2 has more than just the Star boss, and something really weird about this act is that one of the other threats actually calls you and tells you how to deal with himself and the other characters, which I just found super weird. In Act 2, we move from the crawl space to another area called the Deep Zero. There are 3 threats to deal with, and thankfully they're all pretty simple. We have 2 important tools to talk about: the flashlight, which is obvious, and the top panel. Inside of the top panel, we can use a kill switch and something called revitalize, which I'm honestly not too sure the meaning of. The kill switch just cuts the power for a little bit, essentially what you do with the puppet in the main nights. Revitalization fixes distortion when your screen is flipped, because yes, that's still a central mechanic at this point of the game. Silly me, I thought I would have escaped it by now, but I guess God just hates me. Let's start by talking about the threats this act introduces. Starting with Insanity, who is the guy that called us. This guy is literally just the Wither from Minecraft. And yes, he does have an actual human skull, which I do think is pretty cool, I can't even lie. Insanity appears in your left hall with a sound cue, and he himself will never kill you. However, he will disorient you really badly. If you just use the kill switch, then he'll piss off. No real problem here. Again, the characters in this act aren't that bad. Prelude is the next threat, and I really don't know why they gave him that name. It's literally just Freddy. He moves through the cameras with a sound cue to your hallway. You will have to make sure you never look at him on the cameras. I'm not really sure why, but yeah, just don't look at him. Once he gets to your hallway, just use the kill switch, and it's easy. The Star is obviously the final threat in this act, and he has 2 ways to attack you. He will stay on camera 10 for the entire night. His first attack has him appear in your office, dwarking in your face. All you have to do is hit the kill switch, and it'll go away. The second attack has him yell a random number for some reason, and then you'll have to go to that number's camera and stare at him. If you click the wrong camera, you die immediately, so you can't just spam through the cameras until you find him. You need to make sure you're listening, and you do this until 4 a.m. Again, this part is really easy, as all of the characters aren't challenging at all. At 4 a.m., you'll be transported to the main office area from the main nights, except, as you can probably tell, it's distorted as fuck. You get a phone call saying that this will be the last place you'll go until you finally win. He tells you how to deal with him, and Act 3 finally begins. Act 3 is easily the hardest act by far, mainly because the other 2 were super easy. This is also the act that will decide which of the 2 possible endings you will get. Let's get the basics out of the way. The Star has 3 ways to attack you, so let's start by talking about the easiest one. He'll move to camera 4. Once there, you'll need to close the vent as fast as possible, because the Star is fast as holy hell. His next attack has him go to camera 5. Once again, close the vent, but you'll also have to flash him a few times to make him go away. And finally, his third attack will have him scream like an autistic kid in Target when he sees that Pokemon have been restocked and that the scalpers haven't gotten to them yet. When this happens, he just turns into an eye slut. He will randomly move around the cameras, and you'll have to hold the alarm on whichever camera he's on until he stops fucking screaming in my ears minus the S. But of course, this attack is really shitty for one reason. He teleports to a random camera when he screams, so that sucks. But the worst part is that he can move while you're using the alarm, and he doesn't just move to an adjacent camera. No. He teleports to any fucking camera he damn well pleases. Are you fucking kidding me? I'm so sick of these bullshit ass, fuck ass mechanics. Please just kill me already. I could get really mad and scream about this for the next 10 minutes, but I'm gonna be the bigger person and choose not to. Once you complete this final act, you will get the option to either lose your sanity or lose your stability, and whichever you choose will determine your ending. If you choose to lose your sanity, people reveal the crawl space and find Fritz inside of the Cake Bear suit. Fritz hears people talking faintly while he's in a coma-like state. He is then put into a mental institution and the credits roll. I suppose that makes sense. We did choose to lose all of our sanity after all, so the loony bin is probably the best place for us to go. I do think that the reveal that we've been in the Cake Bear suit the whole time is really, really cool, as this game basically just goes to explain where this very important character actually comes from. This is, in my opinion, a perfect example of show don't tell when it comes to storytelling, and I love to see it. However, if you choose to instead lose your stability, Fritz just gets fucking spring locked and dies inside of the Cake Bear suit. We're told that there may still be a chance to find out who the real killer is. We chase after this killer only to find the one, the only Garvey, who is obviously the one who killed the kids in this game. And thankfully in this retelling, he didn't rape one of them for no reason at all. A spirit talks to us and is for some reason happy that we're dead. Pretty morbid, I won't lie. Since the deep isn't real, it is infinite and the mind. I have no idea what that means. I hate FNAF lore. It's so goddamn confusing. Someone please translate. It's like what I'm seeing is Japanese or something. I really have no idea. The spirit asks us how much deeper we want to go, and then we get to see the deep 1 as opposed to the deep 0 we saw in Act 2 of the Star boss fight. In all honesty, this was just a super brief overview of both of these endings. They both have interesting minigames attached to them with some pretty cool scenes, like some does bad things guy type scene with Garvey and a bunch of dead kids. It's honestly really cool to see, and I think this game does such a good job at telling the story. Much better than the stupid fucking theater thing from Dormitibus, which just didn't feel like it fit the game at all. And apparently, both of these endings happened at the same time, getting found in the Cake Bear suit and ending up in Deep 1. It's really cool to see, even though I don't fully understand how any of it makes any sense at all. Now, of course, there are still plenty of other death minigames to talk about, so let's go ahead and get those out of the way. The first is called Missing Persons. In it, we play as a random security guard. Our task is to sneak around the pizzeria to gather information about the kids going missing. We talk to some dude named Colin and another guy named Kane and Anthony and also Peter again. There's a lot of shit going on. Just a lot of us asking questions about the missing kids. They also mentioned something about CCTV footage that we could take a look at for evidence. Eventually, there's a jump cut to a man named Mr. Jimenez with Peter. He's pissed off because his kid has been missing for 2 days, but in all honesty, I kind of call that a win. I hate kids. In the next minigame called Material Witness, we're tasked with getting the CCTV footage I mentioned earlier. As we make our way to the office, we can enter the top left side of the party room and see Shadow Freddy, which is pretty cool, I guess. Once we enter the office, we meet with Garvey. We talk to him about the missing kids, and Jeremy tells Garvey that he shouldn't hang around the back room since it's secluded and people might start suspecting him of the murder since he's the quiet type, which is very unfortunate since we all know Garvey is the one who did it. They mention how Fritz is currently the prime suspect, and that's really about it. This conversation drags on for so fucking long. I was going to get some actors to dub these minigames, but holy shit, they're so long and fucking boring. You can also pick up a key in this minigame. If you go to the office, but take a right before entering it and go into one of the party rooms, you can walk through the wall. Go down and all the way to the left and then all the way up, you will see a room with a key. We'll talk more about the keys later. The next minigame I want to talk about is called Cake Bear's Last Performance. It takes place in 1982. In it, we're around a few other people. One by the name of Alex and the other isn't named. They're talking about drinking and smoking, so you know these guys are cool. The unnamed character mentions a guy named Tom who also smokes outside, but when we go to check on him, we see something floating in the air. I have no idea what it is though. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Then the minigame ends. We can also get another key in this minigame. If we talk to the kid in the left room, then go right all the way to the wall, we can run into it until we glitch through it. Walk to the far right far enough and we find a rope with a key on it. Hooray! I love FNAF secrets. They're so cool and totally not the most annoying things of all time. The next minigame is called Corporate Ladder. We're tasked with going to Peter's office. This scene shows Trevor checking in around the building after Fritz's disappearance and the recent murders, while the company atmosphere is clearly falling apart. Kyle is trying to convince Colin that Natalie wasn't simply lost, but taken. Colin dismisses him, but Trevor steps in to remove Kyle, but Kyle storms off on his own. This is confusing, guys. I'm sorry. Trevor then talks talks with Garvey and John. Garvey's wearing shades like Fritz, saying it might lighten the mood since the kids miss Fritz so much. The conversation makes it clear Fritz was beloved, especially by the children. Garvey also mentions Peter has him working a double shift. Trevor then goes to Peter's office. Peter is on the phone with Mrs. Smith about someone missing and seems overwhelmed, frustrated, and defensive. After he hangs up, he snaps at Trevor, then apologizes. Peter admits he's struggling with the fallout of a quintuple homicide, the investigation, his family, and John's situation. Trevor confronts him, then brings up employee concerns about the animatronics being hostile. Peter initially dismisses it, blaming unreliable employees like Jeremy and Kane, but Trevor insists something feels wrong, especially with the tense police presence and the animatronics staring at everyone. Peter agrees to inspect them the next day, assuming it is just an optics or movement bug. Holy shit, that minigame was long as fuck. All of these minigames are. If you were to play all of the death minigames in order and actually read all of the text, it would probably take you a solid 45 minutes to get through all of it. It's actually some of the most lore-heavy shit I've ever sat through in my life, and it felt like a fucking chore. I can't even lie. I'm not having fun writing this part at all. The next minigame is called Give Gifts of Light, and holy shit, this is the longest one yet. I want to die. The puppet gives the murdered children masks and gifts, which leads to them becoming the BOA, or the Box of Abominations. After that, Peter checks in with Jeremy about the toy animatronics. Jeremy is uneasy around one of them and asks why they don't just move it to the back, but Peter refuses because of how much money was spent on it and because investors are already putting pressure on him. Peter says the main three animatronics' eyes are malfunctioning, so he needs to get parts from the older animatronics. Peter, Trevor, and Kane head into parts and service. Kane brings up suspicion that Colin may have known more than they thought, but Peter insists Colin is likely guilty because he stole money and disappeared. Peter even says that if Colin is blamed, it might be good for them because the cops could leave. Once they enter the back room, they notice a disgusting smell. Kane says it smells like bleach and rotten pennies, not normal wastewater. While searching the old animatronic heads for ocular motors, Kane discovers blood on one of the suits, then realizes there's a body inside. Trevor finds another body too, making it clear the missing children are hidden inside of the old animatronics. Kane immediately wants to call the cops, but Peter refuses, realizing that if the public finds out, the company and their careers are finished. He pressures Kane by pointing out that Kane was responsible for maintenance checks and could be blamed for failing to find the bodies sooner. Trevor then offers a darker solution. He knows a guy who can make the problem go away. The scene ends with Peter deciding to cover everything up. Kane is terrified and wants no part in it, but Trevor tells him all he has to do is walk away and stay silent. Kane agrees in exchange for his tuition being paid and his name being kept out of it. Peter agrees as long as Kane makes sure Anthony and Jeremy never find out. Trevor then warns him he saw nothing, he heard nothing, and knows nothing. And there's only one minigame left to talk about called Loose Ends. Who gives a fuck about what the people are saying? The cool part is that Jeremy gets the Bite of 87 special. Hooray! I'm finally done talking about these fucking minigames. There's still one more thing I want to mention, however, and that is the diary. After completing night 5 for the first time, we unlock it. It's incredibly long, but I guess I'll actually read this one to you. Editor, put a mix of Subway Surfers, GTA cars falling down shit, and some other bullshit that's fun to watch in a compilation on the side of the screen while I read this.
Yes, I may answer if you tap the glass. School will be missed, and its many exploits or stunts. From plenty of people other than myself, having a hand in so many things, call it calculated immaturity, has let me write about it here. So I'm leaving high school with many stories, and I see this as important. I don't remember any cases where staff actually let themselves believe I had done what I'd done, despite being clearly told, so it must be true that I'm naturally sweet, believable, and appealing. I'd hope for this not to change. Try hard, I don't know if the competition, or I'd say maybe superiority complex of school can really exist as well in the following life. This is okay. Of course, F have been ready for a long time to move ahead from this and do worthwhile things. Brandon and I are still happily friends. He's the type to be friends with almost anyone, of course. With so many large meetings, even parties, at his house I found often attended with Greg, Patricia, Anderson, and the likes. So, of course, we will all meet for graduation. June 1st. 1955. Yes, I may answer if you tap the glass. I have delayed the writing of the note for some time due to all my time spent with a certain young man, possibly described as a lonely, pathetic, bumbling, wannabe greaseball, desperately failing maturity, never quite let into the gatherings, but watching prom afar.
usually watching me. He's 16, 2 years younger than me. He's only around because he's Brandon's younger brother, Alex White. I think there is a spark of genius in this young man that I would do good to blossom with, though. If anything, I would even say this is obvious to me. Just because someone is different from how they naturally appear doesn't mean they're intentionally lying. Everyone does it. It's normal. Follow me. I'm a friendly rabbit. June 1st, 1955. Mechs drowns. There is truth to it. I'm trying to gauge and measure. There's also the fact that engineering is ridiculous and doesn't make sense. I'm half joking, of course, although I do obviously question physics, nature. So is he literally spraying himself with maturity? What brilliant symbolism. But no, seriously, it was all that they had for some reason. This is oddly hyper-specific, but he's like the type of person that wouldn't go through the effort or pain or severing their arm to save a child. But you know, I sure feel bad about it for the rest of their life, and overcompensate by sculpting hundreds of fake arms. Actually, well, I guess we wouldn't know, unless somehow that scenario really did play out. Last night we were sitting by the creek. I wanted to relax after I attended the ceremony. I was lost in thought. Who was left? He realized a deep sadness was forming in his eyes, so he moved his head completely to the right, causing the back of his head to face me. He tries to hide his weakness from me. From all women. From anyone. But I haven't seen it. And I remember his face. I study his sadness from the traces, and I look past his skull. Luna 17th. 193 question mark. Come asylum. Unbelievable. I must state this in here right now. I will never stand for this. Know that people who'd ever talk about themselves or question anything would tell me my disconnected world vein, my disconnect from humanity, stems from a discontent for my own life, a mental condition that impedes me from connecting to people, a simple sickness or defect, a fault. Sam above deep or nuanced human connection because I have been past humanity. I cannot, because if I existed in places these other people have never even dreamed of. I was born a higher being and I will give everything to myself. I know people would say this to me because I've seen it on my own, as I have seen everything. My mind is not human. Was born in a human body. I can exist under this facade for as long as I swant. It is control. It is not hard to smile, no feelings. Feelings are an idea that can be bent at will if you are not content to mindlessly lie to yourself. If I want not to love someone, I will not love them. Oh me. There is no reason it can't be this simple. I will not let anyone lie to me. I will wall in and take everything. I will not waste effort of writing about the incident that happened earlier today that lead me to record this sentiment. Damn Alex. He knows not what he does. He understands not what he says. He has always been a lost soul. They have no obligation to save him. He is unsavable. He will sink into his depression unconvertibly. He will always appreciate that S picked him up and showered him in my influence, even if there. November 13th, 1963. Come asylum. A day that he may not admit. Think my he, so hell is too close hilarity. He has never been shoved away and forgotten like he acts like he has. I'm not going to reach out to those quacks and charlatans. This notebook is my institution. It is the only place with order where all the words are set in a place for a reason. The only place with true reason. Would they really be willing to lock away someone as pertly, softly spoken, well-spoken as me? Yes, of course. They would love it. Shut me in a room and leave a little peephole in the wall so they could watch the grime build up in the room and let it infect and toil within me and watch my beauty break into pieces, watch all of me fall apart, and they'd savor it. My mother warning me of issues of mental commitment when I was young is the last thing she has ever done for me. I've written this bit later. Late tonight, I found Alex sitting at the television watching an investigative report called Suffer the Little Children on NBC. I don't write about it because there's nothing to say that my mom hadn't told me back then, but I've still been watching Ticket at Foyleys this year. I was trying to hide from Alex how much I was studying his face, and thankfully he was entranced and not thinking of me in those moments. There was a lot you could gauge from his face during that time. The secondhand guilt and parental pain is there, yes, but he definitely does not care about those children. He's an apathetic person, especially when it comes to outside situations. November 23rd, 1963. But you know he is thinking of John. He always thinks of John. John is his own. Still, I cannot imagine Alex will have money for John's 5th birthday tomorrow. I obviously know I won't. And holy fucking shit, that's it. That was confusing. It was written exactly how I said it. It's so fucked up. I think I'm done. I think this is officially everything Crawl Space has to offer. Oh my god, this was a crazy long ride, and this took such a long time to research and write, record, and edit. I want to thank Triz, the guy who's been helping me do research for the past 3 videos. I couldn't have done this without him as fast as I did. Thank you to my editor Al, because this video is a fucking mess, and he made it somewhat comprehensible. Overall, Crawlspace is an amazing retelling of the Dormitibus story, minus all the disgusting shit that was in the original. As I said, this is the first game in a 3-part series, so you already know I'll be covering the others when they come out. I think this game is really fucking hard, but it is still super cool at the same time, and I would recommend you at least give it a try. Oh yeah, and by the way, it's currently 9:54 p.m. as I'm writing this, so this has been about the last 4 hours of my life in this fucking Google Doc. If there's one thing about the Five Nights at Freddy's lore that I never liked, it was the fact that the games expected you to be able to connect the dots of the story, even though Scott Cawthon himself admitted that he never really knew where it was going. And it's because of that we have a game series with a lore so broken and confusing that nobody really knows what's going on. However, some fan game devs like to take it upon themselves to connect those dots for us and throw their own unique spin on the games. And the game we'll be talking about today is no different. The game we're going to be looking at is called Five Nights at Freddy's: The Flip Side, and I honestly feel like it explains some of the official game's lore's biggest plot holes perfectly, while also offering an incredibly fun gameplay loop. Grab a snack and get ready as we dive into the world of FNAF: The Flip Side.
Hello, Frank? It's me, Henry. Listen, I know you don't work with us anymore, but I really need some help. And I wasn't sure who else to call. We're supposed to test some prototypes for a client, but you know how things are at MCM these days. We're overloaded with projects. If you're available, could you come to Fredbear's? The testing will take place there. I'll make sure they leave the front door open for you. Once you get there, give me a call. There should be a phone in the storage room. Oh, and before you ask, yes, I'll make sure you'll be paid handsomely for this. All right, Frank, I'll be waiting for you.
So there we go. We've got our motive for almost dying for the next 6 nights, and FNAF: The Flip Side finally begins. There was a lot of hype for this game, so I'm ready to get right into it. We open to a free roam section of the game where we're free to wander around pretty much the entire building we're about to sit our hairy, smelly, sweaty, unwashed rumps in for the next 6 days. If we walk into the backstage area, we'll get access to something this game calls the Hand. This can be used to listen to audio logs that get added every night, so we should make sure we're always going to check on them. The audio log on night 1 goes as follows.
Come on, turn on. Oh my god. Finally. This is the 5th time I've been called out here. Last week we got these new hand terminals from MCM. William had me install one backstage. I told him very clearly that thing pulls nearly 80% load if it's not on a dedicated circuit. Did we upgrade the wiring? No. Now the diner loses power 10 times a day, and somehow it's my fault. They keep telling me to replace the diodes in the fuse box. It's not the damn diodes. But he won't listen. He never listens. He just keeps telling me to fix it. You can't fix stupidity, William. It's failing the exact same way it's supposed to. Yeah, that's it. End log.
I'm on the same page as Daniel here. This is the exact type of bullshit you would expect a stupid, out-of-touch old boss to say to you. Moving on, there are also some collectibles we're told to find. If you couldn't guess, these are needed for the true ending of the game, so make sure you're picking them up unless you want the bad ending for some reason. I would tell you where these bobbleheads are located, however, it seems to be completely random. There was one time it was on the stage, but apparently that was just a bug and it wasn't supposed to happen. So I really have no idea. Just go find them. There's no threats during these sections, so you can take all the time you need. All right, with that out of the way, we can finally jump right into the night sections. And what's a better thing to start talking about aside from the tools at our disposal, like I also like to do at the beginning of these videos? I'm just gonna talk about the camera system because that's literally all that's relevant on this night. It's a camera system, that's really it. The buttons are on the right side of the screen instead of being on a map, so that's pretty cool, I suppose. And on one of the cameras, you can see a window to the street where you can actually watch cars pass by, which I do think is super cool. Really puts you into the immersion that, yes, this is a real place and there are people around. It's a really good way of making you feel more alone, knowing there are people outside of the building who could help you, yet nobody is going to. It's a super creepy thing to think about. If we look at the stage, we can see that the animatronics seem to be characters you can see in the final section of Secret of the Mimic, which I do think is actually super cool. I have yet to see a game that uses those specific characters together, so this could be fun. Oh yeah, I should also probably mention that this game is made by Toaster Dev, the same guy that made FNAF Legacy, and it was also worked on a bunch by Weirdo Speed, another very popular FNAF YouTuber and game dev, so you already know this game is about to be crazy. Now, moving on to the first threat this game and night introduces, that being Fredbear 2.0. I'm just gonna call him Fredbear since that's a lot less typing. Fredbear does not have a lot of places to go before reaching your office. He starts in camera 6 before moving to camera 8, -1. No, I'm not saying it. Fuck you. Then he goes to camera 5, which if you're not looking at your camera while he goes from 7 to 5, you can actually see him walking across the doorway to your office, which is just so fucking cool. I love it when games do shit like this. Holy fuck, I'm gonna skeet everywhere. Anyways, from there he will walk back across the doorway and appear to the left of you. From here, you will enter a quick time minigame that you will need to complete to save your life. This is explained as like some programming that you're doing to Fredbear or something. I don't really know. We don't even lay our hands on him. You will have to use WASD for this minigame. When he enters your office, a timer will appear along with one of the letters. You will have to press through multiple of the letters before the timer runs out or he eats your butt. If you ever mess up a key press, you don't die immediately, but the timer will drop by a few seconds, making it all the more likely it'll eat your butt. But if you can defend yourself from him, he'll teleport back to camera 6 and the cycle will repeat itself. I guess I should also mention that when he's making his way to your office, your cameras will turn yellow with a message telling you that Fredbear is coming. But you shouldn't really need that since you'll be able to hear his loud-ass clanker feet making their way towards you. But with that, this night is easy and we can move on to the first post-night minigame. This post-night minigame is very annoying, I can't even lie, and for a reason that really shouldn't even be apparent, yet apparent it is. The goal of this minigame is to repair Fredbear. The way we do so is both easy, yet doesn't really make any sense. We'll have to pull up our maintenance monitor and drag several shapes into their respective places. You know that square hole game everybody had as a kid? Yeah, it's that. Why the fuck does this fix Fredbear? I literally have no idea at all. Every time you successfully drag a shape, your progress will increase by 2%. Get it to 100 and you complete this minigame. However, you may have noticed I haven't complained about anything yet, which just can't be the case. Fredbear will randomly attack you throughout this minigame. Dealing with him is simple. When he attacks, he automatically pulls your monitor down, and all you have to do is quickly boop his nose to reset him. Apparently, his nose is a button that resets his facial recognition. Sure, buddy, just say you took inspiration from FNAF shitpost. It's okay to admit it. I know, I'm a genius. Now, that's not a problem. No, the problem is these stupid fucking shapes. You would think that the shape at the top that you have to drag would change each time you drag the shape and drop it where it needs to go. But no, that would make too much sense. Instead, what really happens is that the shape will randomly change every 1.5 seconds, regardless of whether you're holding it or not. So you could be just about to drop the square into the square hole, and all of a sudden it turns into a fucking rhombocosydodecahedron at the last second, and now you lose. And what does losing mean? Well, it drops your progress by 20%, and each shape only gives you 2%. Are you fucking me in my dick hole right now? You've got to be kidding me. That's so rape. Oh yeah, and since I'm saying semi-offensive words, I might as well add another one to the list. I saw a guy in my comments recently who timestamped the first time I said the dreaded R word in my video. My guess is they're doing this in a piss-poor attempt to be passive-aggressive, so here, this one's just for you, retard. Moving on to Night 2. Night 2 begins with a free roam section. Of course, we could just start the night, but why do that when we could listen to an audio log instead? Yippee!
Hello? Is this thing on? Finally! I need to get this on record, because if I don't, I'm going to lose my mind. I've had to clean out the fridge in the kitchen again. This is the 5th time this week. The 5th! Isn't this supposed to be the janitor's responsibility, or maintenance, or literally anyone who isn't the head chef? Because last I checked, I was hired to cook food. Yet here I am wondering how this place is still legally allowed to operate. And the fridge? Oh my God, the fridge. I don't even know where they dug this thing up, but it's like it was designed to ruin food. Milk spoils in 2 days. It's not even refrigeration. It's practically accelerated decomposition. I swear it'd be safer leaving the food out on the counter. And don't even get me started on management. William especially. Every time I bring this up, he waves off like it's nothing. We'll look into it. Yeah, sure. You've been looking into it for months. We've poisoned what? 5 customers because of it? 5! Yeah, I can't do it anymore. I quit.
Once again, just adding to the conclusion that William is an out-of-touch boss. Who would have thought? It's not like he does really questionable weird shit like all the time. That would be absurd. Oh yeah, grab a bobblehead wherever the fuck it is, and we can jump into the night section. Night 2 introduces one new threat, that being Spring Bonnie 2.0, who, of course, I will just be calling Spring Bonnie since that's easier. And Spring Bonnie also isn't too big of an issue, but could easily become a problem if you let him get out of hand. Occasionally, Bonnie will move into what I will call his attack mode. When he enters attack mode, he will make a sound cue and move from camera 6 to camera 8, then to 7, followed by 6, and finally into camera 3. From there, he'll just fucking kill you. While you can't put Bonnie back on stage, you can move him away from you, and how you do so is probably exactly what you expected. Audio lures. Only certain cameras in the building actually have places that can use audio, and thankfully, unlike most games that have audio lures, this one doesn't have a certain amount, and you can spam them as much as you'd like. As you would expect, drag Bonnie around the cameras with this audio lure to prevent him from going cave diving in your ass and mining the rock hard diamond crusty shit trapped between your buns because you don't wipe properly. And he really shouldn't be a problem. Again, you can't get him back on stage, but you can pretty easily keep him in camera 8. But yeah, that's about it. Nothing else new is added on this night, and Bonnie doesn't add too much of an issue in combination with Freddy. However, there is one more thing I want to mention before moving on. At 5 a.m. every night, the AI of all active animatronics will increase. Just a fun way of saying fuck you in the last minute of the night. Amazing. On to the Night 2 post-night minigame, which is nowhere near as frustrating as the first. This time we're fixing Spring Bonnie, and the pattern for completing it is the same. The only difference is the minigame itself on the monitor, and how to deal with Bonnie. Dealing with him is simple. When he attacks, just use the speaker to play music and he'll calm down. Now for the minigame, which I actually really like. A small rectangle will bounce back and forth across the screen. In the center of the screen, you'll see a little bar. As the moving rectangle passes over the bar, you'll have to press space. For each successful press you make, you'll gain 2 to 4% progress at random, and the rectangle will start moving a little faster. If you ever miss a press, you'll only lose 5% power, so clearly they were out of their fucking minds when they designed the first minigame, but who knows. Anyways, one more thing I should mention is that after each minigame, we get a number for a code that we can type into the hand unit during the free roam sections. So yeah, just make sure you're writing those down. Night 3 once again starts with a free roam section, so let's grab that random bobblehead and listen to the audio log.
Okay, it's recording. Quick note for management, since apparently nobody believes me. That little vacuum robot we got from MCM, the Cleano Vac, yeah, it's not really helping. Every party, some kid grabs it and shoves it somewhere disgusting. Trash cans, sinks. Today, it was in the toilet. The toilet! I'm the one who fishes it out with gloves, and I'm the one who has to clean it, dry it, fix it. Every single time. It's a vacuum, not a toy. If I find it in the toilet one more time, I'm not saving it. I'm letting it die, and I'm telling William it was water damage. Yeah, that's all. Bye.
In case you guys were interested and couldn't tell, that character was played by me, and the name they gave that character is incredibly clever, being a triple entendre. Love you guys. Anyways, yeah, I find it funny how I talk about how much I hate kids in my videos, and then I get to play a character in a game who yells at kids. Perfect for me. Let's move on to the night section. Night 3 introduces one new threat, that being Monty, who apparently wasn't supposed to be able to move, but yet he does, so fucking awesome. I just love that so much. Monty's pretty easy overall, and he also introduces a new mechanic, that being the curtain directly in front of you, which you are able to hold closed. This will obviously be how you defend yourself from him. When Monty goes into attack mode, he will make a loud sound cue and move into camera 3. Inside of camera 3, he will move through 3 phases like Foxy before moving to your doorway. Something very weird about him is, unlike other characters where when they move in the cameras briefly flicker to cover up the movement, Monty's movements don't do this, so you just kind of awkwardly watch him snap into place, which just feels really weird. Once Monty jumps in front of your doorway, just hold the curtain closed until he leaves. Henry, who, by the way, is the guy on the phone at the beginning of each night, tells us that we should really be keeping an eye on him once he leaves the stage, which would make me think that, like Foxy, watching him on the cameras will stall him. However, as you'll find out, it actually doesn't do that at all. Monty doesn't make the night a whole lot more stressful quite yet, as when Monty enters your doorway, he makes a really obvious sound cue, so you don't really need to watch him on the cameras at all. The best thing to do at this point is sit on camera 8 to watch for Bonnie, and only ever pull down the monitor when getting attacked by Monty or Fredbear. Both Fredbear and Monty can attack you at the same time, but luckily the devs thought of this and made it not complete RNG aids, because if Fredbear attacks while Monty is at the curtain, then the curtains won't close and you'll be safe to deal with Fredbear. And if Monty arrives during Fredbear's attack, then you can quickly close the curtains and they'll stay closed throughout the attacks. Thank you so much, you two. I could give you a kiss on the mouth for real. Anyways, time to move on to the post-night 3 minigame. And of course, with Monty being introduced, he is who we're fixing on this night. Once again, the only changes are the minigame and how to defend yourself. On the bottom shelf in the room we're in, there will be a mask. And surprise, surprise, that's what you put on when Monty starts dworking in your face. The minigame is honestly really disappointing, as it's just the Funtime Freddy minigame from Sister Location, except a million times less fucking aids. Just hold the buttons to increase the percentage until you beat the night. Congrats, this one was boring as fuck. Let's move on to night 4. Free roam time! Grab a bobblehead and let's take a listen.
Hello? Okay, I think it's working. These hand terminals are so buggy. So I just started working here at Fredbear's, first day and all that. And honestly, it's kinda nice. It's cozy even. Place has that old school charm, It smells like pizza grease and cheap cleaner, but in a weird way it works. Only one tiny issue. Who the hell picked the animatronic names? Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. Like, seriously, that's what we're going with? Why Spring Bonnie and then just Fredbear? Why isn't it Spring Bear? Or Spring Freddy? Or literally anything else that matches? It sounds like 2 completely different people named them on opposite sides of the room, and nobody bothered to discuss it further. Hey, what should we call the rabbit? Spring Bunny? Cool. And the bear? Fredbear. It makes 0 sense. And it bugs me way more than it should. I can't explain why. Every time I say the names out loud, it just sounds like the branding department gave up halfway through. That's about it. See ya.
Honestly, bro, reasonable crash out. Seems like the type of random shit I would complain about for filler in one of these videos, so I appreciate you doing it for me. Oh yeah, and for some reason we get another log on this night too.
Is this thing on? Yeah? Okay, good. I couldn't find a complaint box anywhere, so I figure this is the only way those schmucks at corporate might actually listen. I got hired to handle plumbing and a few other bits of general maintenance around the joint roughly, 5 to 6 months ago. Might I say you people suck at maintaining a building. I can't walk 2 steps in this place without finding a new leak I gotta fix. Leaky pipes, leaky roof, leaky suits. Oh, wait. I'm not supposed to talk about that. Wait, hold on! How come this place is held together with scotch tape and prayers, yet somehow you have enough budget to pay me 16 crap loads to keep my yap shut about what I saw in the back room? You people disgust me, by the way. Oh, I guess I'm not one to talk. I took your blood money, after all. And you ain't getting it back. My money now, suckers! Maybe having all that on the record ain't the smartest idea. How do I delete this? Maybe this button.
So, this is probably my favorite log throughout the entire game. Just so goofy, yet explains some very interesting information. Probably the most important info we've got so far throughout the entire game. I also love the ending of the tape. It's just the right amount of retarded to make me giggle a little bit. Anyways, on to the night section. I sure hope the most enraging character of all time doesn't activate. Spoiler alert, the most enraging character of all time activates. Night 4 introduces a character named Bub. Once Bub moves, he will enter either camera 4 or camera 5. Something about these cameras you'll notice is that you can close vents on these cameras. From what Henry explains in the phone calls, it sounds like Edwin may have specifically designed Bub to crawl into vents for a currently unknown reason. Now, all you have to do for Bub sounds pretty easy. When he attacks, he makes a sound cue in your left or right ear. All you have to do is close the respective vent on that side of the cameras and he won't be able to get to you. Luckily, if you're being attacked by Monty or Fredbear, Bub will not be able to move. Period. These devs had every opportunity to make Bub the most frustrating character from any FNAF game ever, and they didn't do it. And I'm forever grateful for that. I would literally eat the lice out of their hair if they had lice. Now, I said Bub was frustrating, but why is that the case? He doesn't sound too bad. Well, where it comes from is just his sheer speed, as Bub is incredibly fast and will bounce between both vent rooms and crawl into the vents at actual light speed. It's insane how much hops this guy has. It's actually pretty impressive. As long as you're keeping an eye on him, this night isn't too much different. Of course, this brings up the problem of not being able to watch Bonnie, but overall, with enough practice, this night really shouldn't be too bad. On to the post-night minigame, and this one is by far more complex than any other minigame we've seen so far. Doesn't really mean it's hard per se, but there is a lot more focusing you have to do. The way you complete this minigame is another boring hold the button minigame until you reach 100%. However, what you need to do alongside that is where this one gets interesting. When Bub attacks you, all you have to do is shock him, as during this night you actually get the ability to do that. You also get access to an additional monitor this time around that acts kind of like a FNAF 3 repair panel. In it, you have to keep Bub's integrity charged and continuously charge your shock button or else it won't work. The lower Bub's integrity is, the more often he'll attack, and of course the more often he attacks, the less power your shocker is going to have. The best strategy I found was every 10% of progress I made, charge the generator and shocker a little bit. And of course, deal with Bub whenever he decides to have a seizure directly in front of you. But with that, we get another piece of the code and we can move on to Night 5. Of course, Night 5 starts with a free roam section, so let's listen to that audio log.
Hi, I'm John Fazbear. If you're listening to this log, that means that a piece of licensed Fazbear Entertainment art made by you isn't up to our company standard. Don't fret, however. As the lead director of the marketing department here at Fredbear's, my job is to teach and guide you through the process of making promotional material that is suitable for our wonderful customers. Give me a moment. Samantha, where is my coffee, goddammit? I asked you 15 minutes ago! What do I pay you for, woman? Sorry about that. We're gonna have to cut that one out. As I was saying, the purpose of this log series is to help in making your art pieces compliant with our company values. There's my coffee. Thank you so much, Samantha. You truly are the backbone of this company. Sorry, fellas. She's married to Fazbear Entertainment. Where was I? Right. Refusal or failure to comply with our strict company marketing policy will result in job termination, military discharge, legal action, loss of company benefits, impounding of vehicle, loss of hearing, degenerative bone disease, beheading.
Yelling over coffee is crazy, bro. Moving on, there is actually a final audio log from William Afton. However, as you can probably tell, yeah, we're not gonna be able to listen to this one because it's a bit broken. I'd be willing to bet that William did something to the hand unit so that nobody could listen to whatever it is he said. Also, now is the time you'd be able to put in the password you've been piecing together throughout the nights. I have no idea if this code is random per game, but I'd be willing to bet it probably is. After entering in the password, we see blueprints of the Mimic, along with an audio log from Edwin himself. It goes as follows.
Will, hey, the mascots have been fully upgraded. You won't have to worry about wearing those ever again. Unless you really want to, anyway. Henry will bring them in Saturday morning. I don't want to brag, but I think I might have struck gold with this one. I won't say too much just yet, but this could put MCM on the map as the greatest entertainment and carnival technology company in the country. My inventions are going to be everywhere, and you wanted me to sell the factory. Ha! Good one, Will.
Anyways, with that out of the way, we can actually move on to the night section, which this time around doesn't introduce any new threats and is just a much harder version of Night 4. Bub's speed somehow increases even more, having him bolt to your vents about every 10 seconds. I truly think the biggest problem on this night is 100% Bonnie. With how much Bub attacks and how frequently Fredbear and Monty attack, it is very likely Bonnie will slip away from you, so really be on your A game. The most interesting thing about this night is the phone call. We hear Henry talking about creating springlock suits as opposed to buying a bunch of Mimic prototypes, but Edwin apparently had no interest in any of it, so he decided to build it himself and bring it straight to William, and well, we all know how that turned out. Generally, just keep your cool and focus on this night. Honestly, it isn't too terrible in comparison to some of the other Night 5s we've covered on this channel. After completing Night 5 is where this game splits into two endings depending on whether or not you've collected all the bobbleheads in the pre-Night Free Roam sections. If you at any point missed one, you just get this piss-poor cutscene before the game ends.
Hey, Frank. It's me again. I've packed everything up and I'm headed back to the factory now. I'll take a look at your notes and see what we can improve. Let me know when you get the paycheck, all right? Okay, Frank. Talk to you soon.
Now, that's fucking boring. What we care about is the true ending. What happens if we did gather all of the bobbleheads? Well, we get access to Night 6, so let's get going. During the free roam section of Night 5, we have an interesting task, that being to place some mascots on stage. These being a much fatter version of Freddy and a Spring Bonnie that really just kind of looks like Glitch Trap. If you're wondering why we're doing this, it's actually because during this night, we're actually playing as Henry himself, as he did say he needed to head to the pizzeria to put the new mascots on stage. So once we enter the night section, we get this phone call.
Hello?
Hello, Henry. It's William. Listen, I have to check on the new building soon, so I'll be there in a few hours. Please wait for me. I need to talk to you about something important.
With all due respect, sir, I don't think I can wait that long. I was only supposed to take the prototypes and bring in the new mascots. There are other matters at the factory that need my attention.
Well, work always comes first, doesn't it? I respect that. Then I'll get straight to the point, I suppose. I need you to convince Edwin to sell me the factory.
The factory? Sir, I don't think I understand.
Listen, Henry. Murray's will collapse within a few years if someone doesn't step in. Edwin may be a brilliant creator, but he's in matter of business. I am. Under my leadership, the company wouldn't just survive. It would flourish. More contracts, more reliable employees, and more time for him to focus on his creations. However, if I were to speak to Edwin myself, he'd decline my offer immediately. You know him. He's stubborn. Stubborn just like his old man. He believes he can handle everything, but he's only dragging the company further down. Help me save the factory, Henry. The workers need their jobs. The world needs innovation. But that will only happen if I'm in charge.
I don't think that's possible, sir. It's all he has left of his father. I don't believe he'd give it up so easily. Not to mention Fiona.
I can handle Fiona. Reaching Edwin is the difficult part. But I have faith in you, Henry. You're more capable than you realize. I've seen your dedication. I've seen your abilities. You're meant for more than what MCM is offering you. Do this for me, and the management position of the franchise location is yours.
Sir,
Think about it, Henry.
And with that crazy call, Night 6 begins, acting as this game's boss fight night. Except this time there's 2 bosses instead of only 1. Each character takes the role of 2 of the previous animatronics we've seen. So let's start by talking about the least interesting of the 2, Freddy. Freddy takes the place of Fredbear and Monty. Pretty simple to understand. He can pick either of their attacks at random and then just do them. Nothing very interesting to mention here except for the fact that he's fat as holy hell. Spring Bonnie is where this night gets a bit interesting. So I said both characters take the roles of 2 of the previous characters, but I fucking lied. He only takes the role of Bub. However, he does change how Bub's attack works. During this night, for some reason, you lose access to the ability of closing your right vent. Instead, that Freddy mask that you've seen on your desk this entire game is finally going to be put to use. If you hear Spring Bonnie attack the left vent, same as Bub, just close the vent. However, if he attacks the right side, you will have to quickly put your mask on. And I mean like really fast. It is fucking crazy how fast this rabbit is. Now here's the crazy part. Both Freddy and Spring Bonnie can attack you at the same time. So I recommend that every time you pull your camera down, you put your mask on, since you can deal with Freddy while it's on, and if Spring Bonnie decides to attack at the same time, you're screwed. And really, the only camera you need to be watching throughout this night is the left vent camera to be checking for Spring Bonnie, because even though he makes a sound cue like Bub, he is way fucking faster. But if you can keep yourself on your toes all night, you'll complete Night 6 and get this final cutscene. So, the true ending shows the aftermath and how William Afton completely took over the industry, killing Fiona in a fire during Fall Fest and taking over Edwin's company with him mysteriously going missing. At the end of the day, William got what he wanted. But of course, we all know what happens next in the fallout of Henry and Afton, but that's a story for another day. But with that, that is all Five Nights at Freddy's The Flip Side has to offer. And holy shit, did I love it. Overall, I think The Flip Side is an amazing take on the FNAF lore and does an amazing job connecting some of the dots from the main game. The game looks super cool, the animations are incredible, and the gameplay loop is just the right amount of challenging to both not be mind-numbing and not be ass-hair-rippingly difficult. And I would totally recommend it. Oh yeah, and I voice acted in it, so bonus points there. If there's one thing about the Five Nights at Freddy's lore that I never liked, it was the fact that the games expected you to be able to connect the dots of the story, even though Scott Cawthon himself admitted that he never really knew where it was going. And it's because of that we have a game series with a lore so broken and confusing that nobody really knows what's going on. However, some fan game devs like to take it upon themselves to connect those dots for us and throw their own unique spin on the games. And the game we'll be talking about today is no different. The game we're going to be looking at is called Five Nights at Freddy's The Flip Side, and I honestly feel like it explains some of the official game's lore's biggest plot holes perfectly, while also offering an incredibly fun gameplay loop. Grab a snack and get ready as we dive into the world of FNAF The Flip Side.
Hello, Frank? It's me, Henry. Listen, I know you don't work with us anymore, but I really need some help. And I wasn't sure who else to call. We're supposed to test some prototypes for a client, but you know how things are at MCM these days. We're overloaded with projects. If you're available, could you come to Fredbear's? The testing will take place there. I'll make sure they leave the front door open for you. Once you get there, give me a call. There should be a phone in the storage room. Oh, and before you ask, yes, I'll make sure you'll be paid handsomely for this. All right, Frank. I'll be waiting for you.
So there we go. We've got our motive for almost dying for the next 6 nights, and FNAF The Flip Side finally begins. There was a lot of hype for this game, so I'm ready to get right into it. We open to a free roam section of the game where we're free to wander around pretty much the entire building we're about to sit our hairy, smelly, sweaty, unwashed rumps in for the next 6 days. If we walk into the backstage area, we'll get access to something this game calls the Hand. This can be used to listen to audio logs that get added every night, so we should make sure we're always going to check on them. The audio log on night 1 goes as follows.
Come on, turn on. Oh my god. Finally. This is the 5th time I've been called out here. Last week we got these new hand terminals from MCM. William had me install one backstage. I told him very clearly that thing pulls nearly 80% load if it's not on a dedicated circuit. Did we upgrade the wiring? No. Now the diner loses power 10 times a day, and somehow it's my fault. They keep telling me to replace the diodes in the fuse box. It's not the damn diodes. But he won't listen. He never listens. He just keeps telling me to fix it. You can't fix stupidity, William. It's failing the exact same way it's supposed to. Yeah, that's it. End log.
I'm on the same page as Daniel here. This is the exact type of bullshit you would expect a stupid, out-of-touch old boss to say to you. Moving on, there are also some collectibles we're told to find. If you couldn't guess, these are needed for the true ending of the game, so make sure you're picking them up unless you want the bad ending for some reason. I would tell you where these bobbleheads are located, however, it seems to be completely random. There was one time it was on the stage, but apparently that was just a bug and it wasn't supposed to happen. So I really have no idea. Just go find them. There's no threats during these sections, so you can take all the time you need. All right, with that out of the way, we can finally jump right into the night sections. And what's a better thing to start talking about aside from the tools at our disposal, like I also like to do at the beginning of these videos? I'm just gonna talk about the camera system because that's literally all that's relevant on this night. It's a camera system. That's really it. The buttons are on the right side of the screen instead of being on a map, so that's pretty cool, I suppose. And on one of the cameras, you can see a window to the street where you can actually watch cars pass by, which I do think is super cool. Really puts you into the immersion that, yes, this is a real place and there are people around. It's a really good way of making you feel more alone, knowing there are people outside of the building who could help you, yet nobody is going to. It's a super creepy thing to think about. If we look at the stage, we can see that the animatronics seem to be characters you can see in the final section of Secret of the Mimic, which I do think is actually super cool. I have yet to see a game that uses those specific characters together, so this could be fun. Oh yeah, I should also probably mention that this game is made by Toaster Dev, the same guy that made FNAF Legacy, and it was also worked on a bunch by Weirdo Speed, another very popular FNAF YouTuber and game dev, so you already know this game is about to be crazy. Now, moving on to the first threat this game and night introduces, that being Fredbear 2.0. I'm just gonna call him Fredbear since that's a lot less typing. Fredbear does not have a lot of places to go before reaching your office. He starts in camera 6 before moving to camera 8, -1. No, I'm not saying it. Fuck you. Then he goes to camera 5, which if you're not looking at your camera while he goes from 7 to 5, you can actually see him walking across the doorway to your office, which is just so fucking cool. I love it when games do shit like this. Holy fuck, I'm gonna skeet everywhere. Anyways, from there he will walk back across the doorway and appear to the left of you. From here, you will enter a quick time minigame that you will need to complete to save your life. This is explained as like some programming that you're doing to Fredbear or something. I don't really know. We don't even lay our hands on him. You will have to use WASD for this minigame. When he enters your office, a timer will appear along with one of the letters. You will have to press through multiple of the letters before the timer runs out or he eats your butt. If you ever mess up a key press, you don't die immediately, but the timer will drop by a few seconds, making it all the more likely it'll eat your But if you can defend yourself from him, he'll teleport back to camera 6 and the cycle will repeat itself. I guess I should also mention that when he's making his way to your office, your cameras will turn yellow with a message telling you that Fredbear is coming. But you shouldn't really need that since you'll be able to hear his loud ass clanker feet making their way towards you. But with that, this night is easy and we can move on to the first post-night minigame. Hooray! This post-night minigame is very annoying, I can't even lie, and for a reason that really shouldn't even be apparent, yet apparent it is. The goal of this minigame is to repair Fredbear. The way we do so is both easy, yet doesn't really make any sense. We'll have to pull up our maintenance monitor and drag several shapes into their respective places. You know that square hole game everybody had as a kid? Yeah, it's that. Why the fuck does this fix Fredbear? I literally have no idea at all. Every time you successfully drag a shape, your progress will increase by 2%. Get it to 100 and you complete this minigame. However, you may have noticed I haven't complained about anything yet, which just can't be the case. Fredbear will randomly attack you throughout this minigame. Dealing with him is simple. When he attacks, he automatically pulls your monitor down, and all you have to do is quickly boop his nose to reset him. Apparently, his nose is a button that resets his facial recognition. Sure, buddy, just say you took inspiration from FNAF shitpost. It's okay to admit it. I know, I'm a genius. Now, that's not a problem. No, the problem is these stupid fucking shapes. You would think that the shape at the top that you have to drag would change each time you drag the shape and drop it where it needs to go. But no, that would make too much sense. Instead, what really happens is that the shape will randomly change every 1.5 seconds, regardless of whether you're holding it or not. So you could be just about to drop the square into the square hole, and all of a sudden it turns into a fucking rhombocosydodecahedron at the last second, and now you lose. And what does losing mean? Well, it drops your progress by 20%, and each shape only gives you 2%. Are you fucking me in my dick hole right now? You've got to be kidding me. That's so rape. Oh yeah, and since I'm saying semi-offensive words, I might as well add another one to the list. I saw a guy in my comments recently who timestamped the first time I said the dreaded R word in my video. My guess is they're doing this in a piss-poor attempt to be passive-aggressive, so here, this one's just for you, retard. Moving on to night 2. Night 2 begins with a free roam section. Of course, we could just start the night, but why do that when we could listen to an audio log instead? Yippee!
Hello? Is this thing on? Finally! I need to get this on record, because if I don't, I'm going to lose my mind. I've had to clean out the fridge in the kitchen again. This is the 5th time this week. The 5th! Isn't this supposed to be the janitor's responsibility, or maintenance, or literally anyone who isn't the head chef? Because last I checked, I was hired to cook food. Yet here I am wondering how this place is still legally allowed to operate. And the fridge? Oh my god, the fridge. I don't even know where they dug this thing up, but it's like it was designed to ruin food. Milk spoils in 2 days. It's not even refrigeration, it's practically accelerated decomposition. I swear it'd be safer leaving the food out on the counter. And don't even get me started on management. William especially. Every time I bring this up, he waves it off like it's nothing. We'll look into it. Yeah, sure. You've been looking into it for months. We've poisoned what? 5 customers because of it? 5! Yeah, I can't do it anymore. I quit.
Once again, just adding to the conclusion that William is an out-of-touch boss. Who would have thought? It's not like he does really questionable weird shit like all the time. That would be absurd. Oh yeah, grab a bobblehead wherever the fuck it is, and we can jump into the night section. Night 2 introduces one new threat, that being Spring Bonnie 2.0, who, of course, I will just be calling Spring Bonnie since that's easier. And Spring Bonnie also isn't too big of an issue, but could easily become a problem if you let him get out of hand. Occasionally, Bonnie will move into what I will call his attack mode. When he enters attack mode, he will make a sound cue and move from camera 6 to camera 8, then to 7, followed by 6, and finally into camera 3. From there, he'll just fucking kill you. While you can't put Bonnie back on stage, you can move him away from you, and how you do so is probably exactly what you expected. Audio lures. Only certain cameras in the building actually have places that can use audio, and thankfully, unlike most games that have audio lures, this one doesn't have a certain amount and you can spam them as much as you'd like. As you would expect, drag Bonnie around the cameras with this audio lure to prevent him from going cave diving in your ass and mining the rock hard diamond crusty shit trapped between your buns because you don't wipe properly. And he really shouldn't be a problem. Again, you can't get him back on stage, but you can pretty easily keep him in camera 8. But yeah, that's about it. Nothing else new is added on this night, and Bonnie doesn't add too much of an issue in combination with Freddy. However, there is one more thing I want to mention before moving on. At 5 a.m. every night, the AI of all active animatronics will increase. Just a fun way of saying fuck you in the last minute of the night. Amazing. On to the Night 2 post-night minigame, which is nowhere near as frustrating as the first. This time we're fixing Spring Bonnie, and the pattern for completing it is the same. The only difference is the minigame itself on the monitor, and how to deal with Bonnie. Dealing with him is simple. When he attacks, just use the speaker to play music and he'll calm down. Now for the minigame, which I actually really like. A small rectangle will bounce back and forth across the screen. In the center of the screen, you'll see a little bar. As the moving rectangle passes over the bar, you'll have to press space. For each successful press you make, you'll gain 2 to 4% progress at random, and the rectangle will start moving a little faster. If you ever miss a press, you'll only lose 5% power, so clearly they were out of their fucking minds when they designed the first minigame, but who knows. Anyways, one more thing I should mention is that after each minigame, we get a number for a code that we can type into the hand unit during the free roam sections. So yeah, just make sure you're writing those down. Night 3 once again starts with a free roam section, so let's grab that random bobblehead and listen to the audio log.
Okay, it's recording. Quick note for management, since apparently nobody believes me. That little vacuum robot we got from MCM, the Cleanovac, yeah, it's not really helping. Every party, some kid grabs it and shoves it somewhere disgusting. Trash cans, sinks. Today, it was in the toilet. The toilet! I'm the one who fishes it out with gloves, and I'm the one who has to clean it, dry it, fix it. Every single time. It's a vacuum, not a toy. If I find it in the toilet one more time, I'm not saving it. I'm letting it die, and I'm telling William it was water damage. Yeah, that's all. Bye.
In case you guys were interested and couldn't tell, that character was played by me, and the name they gave that character is incredibly clever, being a triple entendre. Love you guys. Anyways, yeah, I find it funny how I talk about how much I hate kids in my videos, and then I get to play a character in a game who yells at kids. Perfect for me. Let's move on to the night section. Night 3 introduces one new threat, that being Monty, who apparently wasn't supposed to be able to move, but yet he does, so fucking awesome. I just love that so much. Monty is pretty easy overall, and he also introduces a new mechanic, that being the curtain directly in front of you, which you are able to hold closed. This will obviously be how you defend yourself from him. When Monty goes into attack mode, he will make a loud sound cue and move into camera 3. Inside of camera 3, he will move through 3 phases like Foxy before moving to your doorway. Something very weird about him is, unlike other characters, where when they move in the cameras briefly flicker to cover up the movement, Monty's movements don't do this, so you just kind of awkwardly watch him snap into place, which just feels really weird. Once Monty jumps in front of your doorway, just hold the curtain closed until he leaves. Henry, who, by the way, is the guy on the phone at the beginning of each night, tells us that we should really be keeping an eye on him once he leaves the stage, which would make me think that, like Foxy, watching him on the cameras will stall him. However, as you'll find out, it actually doesn't do that at all. Monty doesn't make the night a whole lot more stressful quite yet, as when Monty enters your doorway, he makes a really obvious sound cue, so you don't really need to watch him on the cameras at all. The best thing to do at this point is sit on camera 8 to watch for Bonnie, and only ever pull down the monitor when getting attacked by Monty or Fredbear. Both Fredbear and Monty can attack you at the same time, but luckily the devs thought of this and made it not complete RNG aids, because if Fredbear attacks while Monty is at the curtain, then the curtains won't close and you'll be safe to deal with Fredbear. And if Monty arrives during Fredbear's attack, then you can quickly close the curtains and they'll stay closed throughout the attacks. Thank you so much, you two. I could give you a kiss on the mouth for real. Anyways, time to move on to the post-night 3 minigame. And of course, with Monty being introduced, he is who we're fixing on this night. Once again, the only changes are the minigame and how to defend yourself. On the bottom shelf in the room we're in, there will be a mask. And surprise, surprise, that's what you put on when Monty starts dworking in your face. The minigame is honestly really disappointing, as it's just the Funtime Freddy minigame from Sister Location, except a million times less fucking AIDS. Just hold the buttons to increase the percentage until you beat the night. Congrats, this one was boring as fuck. Let's move on to night 4. Free roam time! Grab a bobblehead and let's take a listen.
Hello? Okay, I think it's working. These hand terminals are so buggy. So I just started working here at Fredbear's, first day and all that. And honestly, it's kinda nice. It's cozy even. Place has that old school charm, It smells like pizza grease and cheap cleaner, but in a weird way it works. Only one tiny issue. Who the hell picked the animatronic names? Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. Like, seriously, that's what we're going with? Why Spring Bonnie and then just Fredbear? Why isn't it Spring Bear? Or Spring Freddy? Or literally anything else that matches? It sounds like two completely different people named them on opposite sides of the room, and nobody bothered to discuss it further. Hey, what should we call the rabbit? Spring Bunny? Cool. And the bear? Fredbear. It makes zero sense. And it bugs me. Way more than it should. I can't explain why. Every time I say the names out loud, it just sounds like the branding department gave up halfway through. That's about it. See ya.
Honestly, bro, reasonable crash out. Seems like the type of random shit I would complain about for filler in one of these videos. So I appreciate you doing it for me. Oh yeah, and for some reason we get another log on this night too.
Is this thing on? Yeah? Okay, good. I couldn't find a complaint box anywhere, so I figure this is the only way those schmucks at corporate might actually listen. I got hired to handle plumbing and a few other bits of general maintenance around the joint roughly, 5 to 6 months ago. Might I say you people suck at maintaining a building. I can't walk 2 steps in this place without finding a new leak I gotta fix. Leaky pipes, leaky roof, leaky suits. Oh, wait. I'm not supposed to talk about that. Wait, hold on! How come this place is held together with scotch tape and prayers, yet somehow you have enough budget to pay me 16 crap loads to keep my yap shut about what I saw in the back room? You people disgust me, by the way. Oh, I guess I'm not one to talk. I took your blood money, after all. And you ain't getting it back. My money now, suckers! Maybe having all that on the record ain't the smartest idea. How do I delete this? Maybe this button.
So, this is probably my favorite log throughout the entire game. Just so goofy, yet explains some very interesting information. Probably the most important info we've got so far throughout the entire game. I also love the ending of the tape. It's just the right amount of retarded to make me giggle a little bit. Anyways, on to the night section. I sure hope the most enraging character of all time doesn't activate. Spoiler alert, the most enraging character of all time activates. Night 4 introduces a character named Bub. Once Bub moves, he will enter either camera 4 or camera 5. Something about these cameras you'll notice is that you can close vents on these cameras. From what Henry explains in the phone calls, it sounds like Edwin may have specifically designed Bub to crawl into vents for a currently unknown reason. Now, all you have to do for Bub sounds pretty easy. When he attacks, he makes a sound cue in your left or right ear. All you have to do is close the respective vent on that side of the cameras and he won't be able to get to you. Luckily, if you're being attacked by Monty or Fredbear, Bub will not be able to move. Period. These devs had every opportunity to make Bub the most frustrating character from any FNAF game ever, and they didn't do it. And I'm forever grateful for that. I would literally eat the lice out of their hair if they had lice. Now, I said Bub was frustrating, but why is that the case? He doesn't sound too bad. Well, where it comes from is just his sheer speed, as Bub is incredibly fast and will bounce between both vent rooms and crawl into the vents at actual light speed. It's insane how much hops this guy has. It's actually pretty impressive. As long as you're keeping an eye on him, this night isn't too much different. Of course, this brings up the problem of not being able to watch Bonnie, but overall, with enough practice, this night really shouldn't be too bad. On to the post-night minigame, and this one is by far more complex than any other minigame we've seen so far. Doesn't really mean it's hard per se, but there is a lot more focusing you have to do. The way you complete this minigame is another boring hold the button minigame until you reach 100%. However, what you need to do alongside that is where this one gets interesting. When Bub attacks you, all you have to do is shock him, as during this night you actually get the ability to do that. You also get access to an additional monitor this time around that acts kind of like a FNAF 3 repair panel. In it, you have to keep Bub's integrity charged and continuously charge your shock button or else it won't work. The lower Bub's integrity is, the more often he'll attack, and of course the more often he attacks, the less power your shocker is going to have. The best strategy I found was every 10% of progress I made, charge the generator and shocker a little bit. And of course, deal with Bub whenever he decides to have a seizure directly in front of you. But with that, we get another piece of the code and we can move on to Night 5. Of course, Night 5 starts with a free roam section, so let's listen to that audio log.
Hi, I'm John Fazbear. If you're listening to this log, that means that a piece of licensed Fazbear Entertainment art made by you isn't up to our company standard. Don't fret, however. As the lead director of the marketing department here at Fredbear's, my job is to teach and guide you through the process of making promotional material that is suitable for our wonderful customers. Give me a moment. Samantha, where is my coffee, goddammit? I asked you 15 minutes ago! What do I pay you for, woman? Sorry about that. We're gonna have to cut that one out. As I was saying, the purpose of this log series is to help in making your art pieces compliant with our company values. There's my coffee. Thank you so much, Samantha. You truly are the backbone of this company. Sorry, fellas. She's married to Fazbear Entertainment. Where was I? Right. Refusal or failure to comply with our strict company marketing policy will result in job termination, military discharge, legal action, loss of company benefits, impounding of vehicle, loss of hearing, degenerative bone disease, beheading.
Yelling over coffee is crazy, bro. Moving on, there is actually a final audio log from William Afton. However, as you can probably tell, yeah, we're not gonna be able to listen to this one because it's a bit broken. I'd be willing to bet that William did something to the hand unit so that nobody could listen to whatever it is he said. Also, now is the time you'd be able to put in the password you've been piecing together throughout the nights. I have no idea if this code is random per game, but I'd be willing to bet it probably is. After entering in the password, we see blueprints of the Mimic, along with an audio log from Edwin himself. It goes as follows.
Will, hey, the mascots have been fully upgraded. You won't have to worry about wearing those ever again. Unless you really want to, anyway. Henry will bring them in Saturday morning. I don't want to brag, but I think I might have struck gold with this one. I won't say too much just yet, but this could put MCM on the map as the greatest entertainment and carnival technology company in the country. My inventions are going to be everywhere, and you wanted me to sell the factory. Ha! Good one, Will.
Anyways, with that out of the way, we can actually move on to the night section, which this time around doesn't introduce any new threats and is just a much harder version of Night 4. Bub's speed somehow increases even more, having him bolt to your vents about every 10 seconds. I truly think the biggest problem on this night is 100% Bonnie. With how much Bub attacks and how frequently Fredbear and Monty attack, it is very likely Bonnie will slip away from you, so really be on your A game. The most interesting thing about this night is the phone call. We hear Henry talking about creating springlock suits as opposed to buying a bunch of mimic prototypes, but Edwin apparently had no interest in any of it, so he decided to build it himself and bring it straight to William, and well, we all know how that turned out. Generally, just keep your cool and focus on this night. Honestly, it isn't too terrible in comparison to some of the other Night 5s we've covered on this channel. After completing Night 5 is where this game splits into two endings depending on whether or not you've collected all the bobbleheads in the pre-Night Free Roam sections. If you at any point missed one, you just get this piss-poor cutscene before the game ends.
Hey, Frank. It's me again. I've backed everything up and I'm headed back to the factory now. I'll take a look at your notes and see what we can improve. Let me know when you get the paycheck, all right? Okay, Frank. Talk to you soon.
Now, that's fucking boring. What we care about is the true ending. What happens if we did gather all of the bobbleheads? Well, we get access to Night 6, so let's get going. During the free roam section of Night 5, we have an interesting task, that being to place some mascots on stage. These being a much fatter version of Freddy and a Spring Bonnie that really just kind of looks like Glitch Trap. If you're wondering why we're doing this, it's actually because during this night, we're actually playing as Henry himself, as he did say he needed to head to the pizzeria to put the new mascots on stage. So once we enter the night section, we get this phone call.
Hello?
Hello, Henry. It's William. Listen, I have to check on the new building soon, so I'll be there in a few hours. Please wait for me. I need to talk to you about something important.
With all due respect, sir, I don't think I can wait that long. I was only supposed to take the prototypes and bring in the new mascots. There are other matters at the factory that need my attention.
Well, work always comes first, doesn't it? I respect that. Then I'll get straight to the point, I suppose. I need you to convince Edwin to sell me the factory.
The factory? Sir, I don't think I understand.
Listen, Henry. Murray's will collapse within a few years if someone doesn't step in. Edwin may be a brilliant creator, but he's a matter of business. I am. Under my leadership, the company wouldn't just survive. It would flourish. More contracts, more reliable employees, and more time for him to focus on his creations. However, if I were to speak to Edwin myself, he'd decline my offer immediately. You know him. He's stubborn. Stubborn just like his old man. He believes he can handle everything, but he's only dragging the company further down. Help me save the factory, Henry. The workers need their jobs. The world needs innovation. But that will only happen if I'm in charge.
I don't think that's possible, sir. It's all he has left of his father. I don't believe he'd give it up so easily. Not to mention Fiona
I can handle Fiona. Reaching Edwin is the difficult part. But I have faith in you, Henry. You're more capable than you realize. I've seen your dedication. I've seen your abilities. You're meant for more than what MCM is offering you. Do this for me, and the management position of the franchise location is yours.
Sir,
Think about it, Henry.
And with that crazy call, Night 6 begins, acting as this game's boss fight night. Except this time there's two bosses instead of only one. Each character takes the role of two of the previous animatronics we've seen, so let's start by talking about the least interesting of the two, Freddy. Freddy takes the place of Fredbear and Monty. Pretty simple to understand. He can pick either of their attacks at random and then just do them. Nothing very interesting to mention here except for the fact that he's fat as holy hell. Spring Bonnie is where this night gets a bit interesting. So I said both characters take the roles of two of the previous characters, but I fucking lied. He only takes the role of Bub. However, he does change how Bub's attack works. During this night, for some reason, you lose access to the ability of closing your right vent. Instead, that Freddy mask that you've seen on your desk this entire game is finally going to be put to use. If you hear Spring Bonnie attack the left vent, same as Bub, just close the vent. However, if he attacks the right side, you will have to quickly put your mask on. And I mean like really fast. It is fucking crazy how fast this rabbit is. Now here's the crazy part. Both Freddy and Spring Bonnie can attack you at the same time. So I recommend that every time you pull your camera down, you put your mask on, since you can deal with Freddy while it's on, and if Spring Bonnie decides to attack at the same time, you're screwed. And really, the only camera you need to be watching throughout this night is the left vent camera to be checking for Spring Bonnie, because even though he makes a sound cue like Bub, he is way fucking faster. But if you can keep yourself on your toes all night, you'll complete night 6 and get this final cutscene. So, the true ending shows the aftermath and how William Afton completely took over the industry, killing Fiona in a fire during Fall Fest and taking over Edwin's company with him mysteriously going missing. At the end of the day, William got what he wanted. But of course, we all know what happens next in the fallout of Henry and Afton, but that's a story for another day. But with that, that is all Five Nights at Freddy's The Flip Side has to offer. And holy shit, did I love it. Overall, I think The Flip Side is an amazing take on the FNAF lore and does an amazing job connecting some of the dots from the main game. The game looks super cool, the animations are incredible, and the gameplay loop is just the right amount of challenging to both not be mind-numbing and not be ass-hair-rippingly difficult. And I would totally recommend it. Oh yeah, and I voice acted in it, so bonus points there. What do you think is the most underrated Five Nights at Freddy's fan game ever made? A series that is so amazing you'd think it'd be talked about everywhere, but when you go to check, it seems like nobody has ever even heard of it. The game we'll be covering today is one of those games for me, and when doing research for this video, especially when talking about the lore, I found it incredibly difficult to piece it together because of how little information there seems to be about it. But rest assured, I think I've got it figured out. The game we'll be covering today is Project Readjusted, a FNAF fan game with one of my favorite stories of all time. Sit back, relax, and let's jump into this amazing trilogy together. The first big change I noticed in Project Readjusted from most FNAF games is the way the phone calls were handled. Rather than having the phone calls take place inside the game, this game instead chooses to have us listen to the phone call before we even load into the office, instead giving us a still image to look at showing the characters we will be seeing on each night. I'll admit it's unique, however, I think I'd personally prefer to be able to mess around with the cameras, mechanics, and so on while the phone guy is talking, and just have to make sure nobody moves while that's happening. I feel that's a much better way to utilize the first phone call in a FNAF game. The first phone call doesn't give out any meaningful information, really just going over how the main character Buster works, but it's my job to explain the mechanics, so I don't think I'll be letting the depressed sounding Wei Ji do that for me. Upon loading into the office, you may feel just a little cramped, and that's normal. This office is teeny tiny, like much smaller than most FNAF offices I've seen in my days. Obviously, we have a door to the office, because if we didn't, I'd question how we even got into the room in the first place. However, the interesting thing about this door is that it doesn't close. Oh, Dexter, does it not have an actual door? Like, it's just a doorway? No, there's a door. our character just for some reason chooses not to close it. But instead of thinking that's because we're playing in the shoes of a dumbass, I'm instead going to assume it's because we're playing in the shoes of a badass who isn't scared of anything. We also, of course, have our cameras, which are very interesting to say the least. To start, they have two modes, lights on mode and useless mode, because as I'm sure you could have guessed, if the lights are off, you can't see anything. I know, groundbreaking. You'll also notice you have a camera stability percentage. What does that mean? Well, as the name suggests, it reads the percentage of your camera stability. I'm sorry, I'll stop talking like that. While on your cameras, the stability will quickly decrease. Putting the camera down will cause it to quickly increase back up. If it drops down to 0, you're gonna have to wait a while before being able to use it again. So, what about that Buster fella I mentioned earlier? How does he work? Great question, viewer of questionable stench. Buster is as basic as a character can get. I'm sure you could probably guess what he does, but it's my job to tell you. Buster will move around through the cameras with the goal of getting to your office. Once there, he'll peek his little head through the door. Using this comically large blue button on the wall of your office, you can shine a light into the doorway, revealing he has the teeth of a British person. Hold this light on him for long enough and he'll go away. Simple sugar. After night 1, we get a short cutscene. You guys seem to like the narration I did in my Maggie's video, so instead of just summarizing what happened like I would usually do, I figured, why not narrate this as well?
Hey, it's been a long time, you and me. We finally met ends on a good note, for now. I'm only implying that our experience will be better. Now, there is something I need to tell you. I know I'm jumping to conclusions without explaining who I am, but bear with me. There is something inside this diner. Just maybe put on some type of gig to make some fool believe you to make them work here. Maybe that person will lure that thing out. I'll tell you more tomorrow, but for now, let's begin to go inside. Let's take the back alley, as it's less noticeable. Come along, we only have 5 days.
Sounds like someone's trying to dupe us and use us as bait. That's not very kind, vaguely barbaric. But whatever, we're already working here. I guess it's just in our best interest to not die. Moving on to night 2, you can quickly take a little nap because the phone guy takes a billion years to talk about the new character this night adds, and ramble about some arcade machines. The new character added on this night is Old Buster. At least, that's the name that would make sense. However, this character's name is actually Redeemer. Quite literally, being an older Buster model, I can't quite wrap my head around why they chose to name him in the way they did. Redeemer makes use of your vents, something I've neglected to mention thus far. You can't really see it, but the vent is to the right of your office behind the door, so just out of sight. Redeemer does whatever he damn well pleases until he eventually decides to enter the vent. When he does, an obvious sound cue will play letting you know he's entered. Once he reaches your office, he'll dive in. When he's in your office, it's very important that you don't look at him. However, since the office we're in is so small, it may prove very difficult to just look away from him. So you'll have to be looking at your cameras while he's in your office instead. I guess Redeemer has the mindset of, if I can't see him, he can't see me. Stupid ass robot. This, however, may bring up a possible conflict. If your camera stability is too low by the time Redeemer gets to your office, it's safe to say that you wouldn't have a very good time. But luckily for us, at this point in the game, checking the cameras is entirely useless. So as of right now, this shouldn't be a problem.
Hey, so I was looking around in these garbage bins and found a key. It's great, I know, the low effort put into protecting this place. Anyways, remember that idea I had, well, a few minutes ago? I got this one guy on my phone now. His name is Hayden Simmons. Pretty dumb fellow. I bet he doesn't even know of this place. Probably a high school dropout or a kid desperate for some easy cash. Well, now let's venture inside this establishment and set up an office for our buddy.
So we know the name of our character, Hayden Simmons. Too bad his name is one of the rhyming Aiden names, probably the worst group of names anybody could have. That's besides the point though. It seems like the building we're working in isn't even supposed to have an office. It's clear something sinister is going on here, but we don't quite know what yet. Moving on to night 3, I'm going to spare you the details and have us skip the phone call because he explains what the newest character does in an amount of time that could be an entire video by itself. Night 3 introduces Ned. Ned is ugly. Like, ugly as sin. He's got a face not even a mother could love. Booger-ah, boy. He will try to make his way to your office via the long hallway in the building. Unlike Buster, he isn't a complete dumbass, so the light trick won't really work on him. What will work on him, however, is the replace machinery button that I've blatantly and purposefully ignored up until this point, because explaining it earlier really wouldn't have made a whole lot of sense, now would it? Ned has multiple stages in the hallway. Every time you use the replace machinery button, he will go back a stage. I'm sure you can figure out how this works. Push him back, wait for the button to recharge, push him back again, keep him away from your office, which would in turn keep him away from your genitals. Whoopity-doo. However, this does bring up the issue of us needing to use our cameras now. So in combination with Redeemer, Ned could end up being a big problem down the road.
Alright, sorry for keeping you waiting, but I had to run back to my car to get a battery for my phone. It's pretty low percentage right now, but it'll last now. Hayden says he'll be able to work next week, which is great. We'll pay him around $150 for his work, I guess. Maybe it's considered a scam to him, but I don't care. He just said he's not a fan of night jobs, but will do it anyways, and he'll play on his phone. Like that's gonna go down well. Anyways, let's head inside. The Wi-Fi better not be bad inside, I swear.
Not much to note from this cutscene. We know we're getting criminally underpaid, and we know that playing on our phone really isn't going to be an option, which just makes me smile from ear to ear personally. Night 4 introduces 2 new characters. However, one of them serves to be more of an annoyance than an actual threat, so we'll talk about him first. Greg is a little asshole. Really, this game's Balloon Boy. Not because he has the same mechanic, except I lied because he kinda does. His main goal is to disable your light and leave you vulnerable to Buster. He'll slowly crawl across your office. You will have to click him multiple times to make him go away. If you don't, he'll park his fat ass on the button and prevent you from using your light. You might be asking yourself, Dxtr, clicking on him? How does the game justify that making sense? Perfect question. From the way the phone guy describes it, it's just poking him. So I guess this motherfucker's just the Pillsbury Doughboy. Ticklish ass robot. The other That's so fucking stupid. The other character introduced on this night is Glancy, what I feel is this game's most frustrating character. Glancy tries to get into the back storage room and just literally fuck up everything in the entire building. Rip wires, killing your lights and your camera. So obviously something you should want to avoid. The way you do so is very easy. Remember how I mentioned the cameras had 2 states, on and useless? Well, turns out I lied, as the useless mode actually isn't useless. When Glancy gets into this back room, all you have to do is turn the camera lights off and he won't be able to see shit, making him decide to travel into another room by accident. I'd imagine it's an accident since he can't see, but he could have easily just gotten pissed off and left on his own accord. Which, if he can see where the exit is, you'd probably think he could see the wires, but I guess not.
We're inside. Now, let's just put some of these cameras around the building and we'll be all set. Oh, never mind. There's a panel lying down on this shelf. Wait. You hear that? Well, anyways, you'll record calls just to convince him, Andrew. Just do a casual voice or whatever. Nice, these'll work. What the? Did I just hear walking? Wait, who are you? Andrew, run. He's looking for me. I'll see you around, friend.
Gulp. So we know the name of our phone guy, Andrew. Sounds like whoever is heard in these cutscenes isn't Andrew then. And apparently upon entering the building, something found them. Andrew ran, leaving whoever he was with behind, not knowing what the outcome was. Night 5's phone call actually has something interesting in it, if you could believe that. Andrew tells us that the character introduced on this night has something they want. Finally, a motive for what they're doing. Apparently this new character, Vinard, has a special chip that they really want. Andrew doesn't explain why they want this chip, but I'm sure we're gonna find out. Speaking of Vinard, what does he do? Well, he will try to hack the cameras so that you can't use them, and then wheel his way over to your office to kill you. Not sure why he has to disable the cameras to do that, but he does, I guess. Occasionally, you will see a purple error next to his camera. When you do, all you have to do is go to that camera and turn the light off so he can't see. Because like some people, he can't type without looking at the keyboard. Embarrassing. That's a talent you probably want to learn if you're on a computer all day. But that's really all he does. It really starts to show on this night how difficult this game can be, requiring you to be in the cameras very frequently. The only real chance you'll get to recharge your stability is when Buster is attacking, and I think that was on purpose for the sake of balancing, but maybe I'm being too optimistic. Unlike every other night, Night 5 doesn't have a post-night cutscene, so I can't talk about that. What I can talk about, however, is an Easter egg, and a fun piece of trivia about one of the characters in this game. After completing Night 5, you will unlock Custom Night. Inside, if you set everyone to max and click the Fox plushie in your office, you'll get this jump scare. And if you're interested in something about Vinard, he's actually a character made by Mixlass, the guy that made Tyke & Sons Lumber Co. and Baby's Nightmare Circus, which I've covered on this channel before. Definitely go watch that video after you finish this one. And as a result of using Mixlass's character, Mixlass then used one of Mechless's characters in his game Tyke & Sons Lumber Co. Pretty cool if you ask me. But that is all Project Readjusted has to offer. Overall, I think the game is surprisingly mechanically complex for a first game, something pretty uncommon with fan games that take place in a series like this. But don't let the lack of lore fool you, as Project Readjusted has one of the most interesting stories I've ever seen, and it continues in Project Readjusted 2.
It's been so long since I've seen Matthew. He just disappeared. I must find him again. I have so many questions. I could possibly get answers from the new Buster's location. The location is currently being renovated, but they must need some kind of guard. Could be hiding there after all this time. Well, let's see where this takes me in my hunt to find him.
Project Readjusted 2 opens with a mission already in mind, finding a man named Matthew. I'm unsure who Matthew could be. My only guess at this time is it's the guy that got left behind by Andrew in the first game. But that is obviously unconfirmed as of now. Our player, Andrew, enters an old Buster's location to look for answers, throwing us right into Night 1. Loading into Night 1, we get a call from the phone guy who goes over the basics of what we'll be doing. He mentions that they're currently working on newer models of all the characters. Not a whole lot of interest to point out during this call. However, what is of interest is how scared I was when I first saw the equivalent of 3 fucking music boxes in one camera. But lucky us, we don't have to worry about that right now. Unlike Readjusted 1, this game doesn't have anything to stop you from staring at your cameras for as long as you'd like, which is a breath of fresh air. But that only means that this game is going to be AIDS in a different way, and we'll figure out how soon. Let's talk about the first and only threat Night 1 introduces, Cable Buster, who I'm just going to be calling Buster because I'm lazy. Buster makes use of a new mechanic this game introduces, the Showtime tapes in Camera 1. When Buster gets to either Camera 5 or Camera 7, you will have to look at him. He will be repeating a day of the week. I don't know why he feels the need to say it out loud constantly. Phone guy explained that apparently that's what he's designed to do, walk around the building and inform people when the show is about to start. But why would he say the day of the week if that was the case? I have no idea. Once Buster says what day of the week the show is on, you will have to quickly go to Camera 1, set the sound file to the day of the week he stated, and play the audio track. This will cause him to meander back to Camera 1 and do a little jiggy. Just kidding, he doesn't dance. I just lied to you.
Something isn't right. Papers are coming in about a missing person. A missing person at the old Buster's. It must have been the spy that Matthew took care of. He's on the prowl and I will end it in this place. There's no way I can fail this. His tracks are so hidden yet so predictable. I just need more clues.
So, Matthew killed a guy, and not just any guy, he killed a spy. So clearly Matthew is probably a bad and dangerous man. So we should approach with caution. Not knowing anything else, we move on to Night 2. Night 2, the phone guy introduces some new mechanics, but fuck him, my voice sounds better. Night 2 introduces Infested Glancer, but before we talk about what he does, we should talk about the second thing our cameras can do. Show some air ducts! Hooray! The air duct menu is very reminiscent of the ones from Ultimate Custom Night. You have a radar that you can use to detect anything moving inside. Spoiler alert, Glancer is inside. You may also notice that there are 3 things you can repair. Are your FNAF 3 senses going off? Because mine are going haywire and it's making me want to off myself. The 3 things to repair are your radar, your lights, and your doors. Glancer will attack any of the 3 vents in your air ducts, all of which lead to your office. Use the radar to find where he is and close the door when he gets too close. You'll notice that you have a meter on this screen that tracks your door power. If it runs out, you'll have to reboot the doors, and of course, after too many uses of your radar, you'll have to reboot that as well. Glancer brings up a very obvious issue. He's fucking annoying, and he's very fast, easily being the most annoying character in this entire game, demanding the majority of your attention like a clingy girlfriend that you're slowly falling out of love with. And of course, the repairs in this game are some of the most frustrating mechanics I've ever had to deal with, spending the majority of my playthrough listening to that ear-grating beeping. This is where camera stalling comes into play. By staring at Glancer, or Buster if you really wanted to, you can prevent them from moving. Glancer does not initially start in the air ducts, so I'd usually spend as long as I possibly could staring at him so he didn't slip away, because once he's in those ducts is when he becomes Satan. I can't decide on what to do. This whole situation is terrible. One wrong step and I'm in jail or potentially executed. I'm not falling into that hole of guilt with no way to release it. But damn, corpse inside that Glancer suit has definitely gotta be the spy. What else would Matthew have done to the body? Thrown it out? No way. I got my evidence. Now I just have to find Matthew himself. He can't be stopped now. So apparently there's a body inside of Glancer, the spy that Matthew killed. So yeah, that checks out. It really wouldn't be a FNAF game if people weren't getting stuffed into mascot suits, would it? Night 2 introduces 2 new characters, Magic Suit and Wraith Ned. Let's talk about Ned first since he's less annoying. He's this game's version of a Phantom Chica. Occasionally, he can start to appear on one of your cameras. If you don't look away from him fast enough, he'll jump scare you and cause you to need to repair everything. Your radar, your lights, your doors, your dick. Not super annoying, just get some reflexes and you'll be fine. Magic Suit, on the other hand, is very annoying. This is the guy who thought it'd be really funny to have 3 fucking music boxes at the same time. His 3 plugs will slowly decrease in power. You'll have to keep them charged up if you don't want Magic Suit to Magic Mike you. Fuck. You'll have to Fuck. You'll have to keep him charged up if you don't want Magic Suit to Magic Mike you. But in all honesty, these 2 new characters aren't even an issue. This entire game's main problem is Glancer. God, I hate him so much I could just stick a fork in my ass. That doesn't even make any sense, but irrational anger causes irrational responses sometimes. I don't know what to tell you. What the hell was that purple thing? Is the air in this place toxic? What the hell? Can't keep working here. I must escape before I lose my mind. I don't know what I'm going to do. I have a feeling finding Matthew won't be easy. Speaking of which, I found a tape from the old location. That Glancer suit had made itself in the backstage. How? Must have found the pieces from when the original Glancer and Glossy characters were split up and put together. I don't know how sewing those 2 together made any sense, but I guess it was good for Halloween. Scratch that. Anyways, Matthew forced that spy corpse down inside the Glancer suit while it was trying to escape. What is wrong with these chips? I feel like someone is controlling them. No way this is artificially programmed in the animatronics. It's too mobile. Now there's more than one thing I need to find out. Great. So it sounds to me that Glancer put himself together and tried to escape the building, but while doing so, Matthew stuffed a corpse of the spy inside of him. What the hell is going on? I have no idea, but hopefully some more context will come along soon. The only character introduced on Night 4 is Wraith Finn, being in my opinion the second biggest threat in this game. Finn will quietly appear in your office. Up until this point, you haven't had any reason to ever lower your camera. Well, Finn is now your reason. When he appears in your office, you will have to hold your mouse over the top half of his body until he fades away. If you don't, say hello to a fuck ton of repairs and a quick death. Something I find really weird about this mechanic is how it's explained in the game. The phone guy literally tells us to put our cursor over it.
She said she stared at what she saw, putting your cursor right on its upper half. That's kind of specific, but whatever. Just her, I guess. Anyway, good night.
I've never really seen a FNAF game be meta like this before, but I guess how else are you supposed to explain the mechanic? I suppose you could say to stare at it, but that wouldn't indicate you need to touch it with your mouse. Overall, a very goofy introduction, and a character that I forgot about so much, I think I died to him more than any other character throughout this entire franchise. Okay, I have many questions. How did that design get into this place, and how did it just fade out of existence? It was called Finn. We never got around to finishing it. It was like Buster's pal. The head was never done, but he had his other pieces done. Although I noticed this Finn had his hands gone. This place is so damn weird. This place is so damn weird. Alright, so really nothing interesting said there at all. Finn was supposed to be Buster's friend. Buster's a fucking robot. He has no friends. Moving on to night 5, as it should be much more interesting and hopefully have a more interesting post-night cutscene. Night 5 introduces the last threat this game has to offer, Wraith Vinard. A character that isn't too terrible to deal with, but will really just act to take more of your needed time away from Glancy, which is obviously not something we want. Vinard only ever appears on camera 8. Occasionally, when checking that camera, you will see Vinard's silhouette with no eyes. You will have to stare at him until his eyes appear. Once they appear, you will then have to quickly look away as if you aren't the fucking reason his eyes appeared in the first place. Something super interesting to note that I haven't mentioned so far is how these wraiths have been explained by the phone guy, being the only characters he's convinced aren't real. But you might be wondering, if he doesn't think they're real, why does he mention them? That's a good point. Apparently, the guard that worked here before us left several notes about these wraiths, and the phone guy is reading her notes to us in the phone calls. Maybe as an in case, maybe just to make fun of her, who's to say? Either way, I find it interesting. Vinard? With legs? What is going on anymore? I can't take things seriously. Wait, no. I hear sirens. I still haven't found Matthew. And I got several people outside awaiting my arrival. Police cars. Someone found out. Someone told them. Matthew, you bastard. I will find you. You won't get away with this. I can't believe this is how my story ends. It's not right. I can't. Matthew was never found by any officials or Andrew. Andrew attempted to bring the situation to court, but not enough evidence was collected. Andrew was deemed guilty for the corpse inside Buster's Diner World and was sentenced to death row, his execution following a month after being assigned. This was not the outcome he had thought of. It could have been worse. This story is false. Well, goddamn! Quick recap. In this game, we play as Andrew, the phone guy from the first game. We still don't fully know exactly who Matthew is, but he called the police and informed them that Andrew was at the building and had killed someone. They arrived, found the body in the Glancer suit, and had Andrew killed, giving us the fake ending. Oh god, endings, Dxtr. Let's quickly go over what it takes to get this true ending, please. Well, there are several minigames you will need to complete throughout the game in order to get this true ending. Let's blast through how to get them. During each night, a specific camera will have its name flickering slightly. Clicking on the name will shoot you into the minigame. On night 1, it's the main supply camera. On night 2, it's the West Hall. Night 3, it's the secondary supply entry. Night 4, it's the secondary supply entry again. And night 5, it's the power breaker. After completing all the minigames and successfully beating night 5, you'll get the true ending instead. The minigame. It spoke the words I couldn't find myself. Matthew died with his baby. A tape left on him. I can't explain what I've experienced here. I can't go on with this sudden guilt. This damned children's entertainment chain should have never happened. This outcome was not proper. And I can't handle it. I don't know what will happen next. I'll report the death of him and the corpse to the police. At least I can get off with no charges. I can't put myself to do it. I can't go the route my gut wants me to go.
Later the same night, Andrew had a heart attack. No evidence was ever turned in to the police due to this. Nearly a week later, police arrived after suspicion from pedestrians roaming the streets. Police had not told any officials about what was found and began to demolish the location. Andrew's story is over. An ending to a tragic story. There are no solutions to the problem. Diner World Entertainment was shut down immediately and ran out of business, seeking a new opportunity to reach into kids' hearts. This is the true story.
Well, goddamn! Turns out it didn't matter what he did. Andrew still died, and no word of Matthew was ever heard from the police. We just can't win, can we? Well, luckily for us, this storyline does continue, and even more lucky for us, it continues in the best game in the series, and arguably one of the most creative FNAF games ever designed.
I know who you are, Andrew Vargas. I've seen your name in records before. I know what you're doing. You want information. Lots of it. I'm no provider, but I can lead you to what you want. I know that man, Matthew, has been nothing but a mystery to you. His image is shrouded in a dense fog that your gaze cannot penetrate. But you want to break it, do you not? You can either go the full walk or fall short. There is no try this time. All the information you want to grasp so badly can be obtained. All you have to do is satisfy us. There are 3 captives full of knowledge below the storage facility. Treat them to our satisfaction, and they will live out to the 5th and final day. On that day, they will be free. They will be able to tell you all that they know. This is what you want, right? The data you seek is waiting for you.
And here we are! Project Readjusted 3, the last game in the series and undoubtedly the best. This opening cutscene throws us right into the world of this twisted game. We play as Andrew. That might seem a bit confusing since Andrew died in the last game. But guess what? Apparently, both of the fucking endings weren't real. So what the fuck? I'm not joking, by the way. I'm being completely serious. Both of the endings in the second game aren't real. The true ending isn't real. Both the fake ending and the true ending both didn't fucking happen because it takes place before this one. So like, what the fuck was that all about, huh? Anyways, we're not sure who was speaking to us in that cutscene, but apparently there are 3 survivors that have all the information we need to solve whatever is going on with Matthew. And with that, we're tossed into night 1. This game does progress based on objectives instead of time. But rather than a game like Pizzeria Simulator where the tasks you have to complete are mind-numbing, the task in this game actually requires a small bit of brain power, and is truly one of the most creative takes on a FNAF game I've ever seen. We're tasked with protecting these 3 captives. In the cameras, you'll be able to see 3 rooms. Each of these rooms holds one of the captives. You can keep track of their stats at the bottom of the monitor, see how much hunger, thirst, and satisfaction they're all at. Note how much supply you have. Your goal throughout this night is to send these captives shipments of food and water. Then, once they're all satisfied, the night can end. When you open the gate, food and water will slowly be dispensed. You can control which room these packages will go to. The longer you take to send a captive something, the lower their satisfaction will go. At the top of the screen, you'll see a minimum grade you need to complete the night, and which grade you're currently at. Meaning you don't have to fill each room up to its entirety to complete the night. However, I'm a fucking badass and chose to get the best grade possible on each night. In order to refill your supplies, you will have to complete a task. A set of numbers will appear in a random order and you will have to click them in that order. When you finish, your supply will be slightly filled. Side note, if you ever see this sliding minigame instead of the number 1, that's because in that specific moment, I'm using footage from Indie Fuel. And in his playthrough, he was playing an earlier version of the game that used a different minigame. And that's all that happens on night 1. I could talk about the cameras for sure, but I think that'll become much more important in night 2, which actually brings on the first and main threat this game has to offer. But before we can get to that, in true final game lore dump fashion, after each night we get a post-night minigame to have fun with. In this minigame, we just kind of walk around. We check the stage in the main room and notice that there's supposed to be 2 animatronics on stage, the other being Finn. You may remember him from the second game. We go backstage where we believe Finn should be, only to find a dead child on the ground, bringing this minigame to a close. Something really awesome about this game is the patient hub. Dexter, what's the patient hub? If you'd shut the fuck up and watch the video like a normal person, instead of continuously asking questions like the girl you're watching a movie with that you really wish you didn't invite over because you're just trying to watch the fucking movie, I'd explain it to you. Sorry, lost my temper a little bit. Anyways, the patient hub is on the menu. Using it will actually let you go to talk to the 3 people you're protecting throughout the nights. Throughout the nights, heading to the patient hub, they will give you different pieces of information as the game goes on. On this first night, they don't tell you anything since they've been told they can't yet, probably by whoever put them here. This is such a cool and interesting integration into this game, and I think this is one of the big reasons why this game in particular is so underrated. Night 2 is where this game really starts to get real, introducing the first main threat of the game, Busted. Inside of your monitor, you'll notice the left half that I haven't really mentioned. Well, I'm about to mention it. You'll notice that it only has 3 cameras, but don't let that fool you. Busted will move around the cameras, not only trying to get to you, but to get to the captives as well. If at any point you can't find him on your cameras, that means he's in your office. Your office, by the way, is another thing I've neglected to mention. There are 4 entrances to your office, 2 on each side. You have the 2 obvious hallways in front of you, and then the 2 holes in your walls to the sides of you. Busted is very quiet, so you will have to make sure you're tracking him. Once Busted enters your office, you will have to scare him away with the light. Now, you may think, like most FNAF games, that we'd be given a flashlight, but no, that'd be too easy. In Project Readjusted 3, you're given a fucking glow stick to defend yourself. You know, one of those crack and shake things? Yeah, that's our main means of defense. When Busted is in your office, you have to hold the glow stick on him to scare him away, but there's a catch. Your glow stick cannot be used for very long at all. It has a very short lifespan, so you have to check really fucking quickly. Obviously, if you don't, you'll die. But if you remember, I mentioned Busted being able to attack the captives as well. While watching Busted on your cameras, you may notice that on any of the 3, he may get a bit too close to some of the patient doors. If he does, that's how you know he's about to attack them. When you see him doing this, you must ring the bell on your desk. The noise will attract him to your office and away from the patients. Something super interesting about Busted attacking patients is that if he kills one, you don't lose, and it will actually make the remaining nights easier since you'll have less mouths to feed. However, as I'm sure you could have guessed, if a patient dies, they will never come back throughout the rest of the game. That means no more talking to them in the patient hub at the end of the nights. And of course, if you let all 3 patients die, then you will lose the game. This right here is one of the coolest mechanics I've ever seen in a FNAF game. Project Readjusted 3 is literally just being placed in a saw trap, really. In the post-Night 2 minigame, we talk with the other guards about what we saw. They mentioned this is the second time this has happened. Walking up to the stage, we find another dead child, presumably killed by Buster. We're told to check the office for anything else, and we do. Upon finding nothing, we walk back, only to see the ghost of some unknown spirit that looks like Finn walking away.
I started seeing some weird things recently. They were purple weird things. It got closer as I blinded myself, but as I looked at it, it faded away. I don't know what to do. At least the leader himself isn't down here. He is very strict. He would be looking at me, making sure I was staying put and acting appropriately. He threatened to stop liquids from coming into my room if I didn't listen. He really wants us to go his way, so just send us supplies like he wants, at least when he is nearby. As long as he doesn't notice you aren't doing what he wants, he should be fine.
This place is a crazed house, and it's all your fault. I can't believe this! You better get out of here in the end. With me alive!
I've started hearing screams. It sounded like it came from a room adjacent to mine. Maybe I'm hallucinating. After all, we are under that old building. You know it had the fume problem, right? Surely you do. You used to work there. You told us all about you. My sister used to work there, but she hasn't touched it since. I think I've figured out why now. Just Don't forget about your main threat, but don't let yourself get too paranoid about it. You got this.
On night 3, we get introduced to the last threat this game has to offer, the purple hallucinations, explained by the fact that there are strange fumes coming from the facility above. These hallucinations act as a nuisance, but a nuisance you're going to want to maintain. They can appear in any of your cameras or in your office, and they're very quiet. If they're on your cameras, you have to stare at them, and if they're in your office, you have to flash your glow stick at them. They will never kill you themselves, but they will scare the patients if you don't get rid of them. And if the patients get scared, they'll scream, and Busted will kill them. Not at all a difficult threat, but an annoying one nonetheless. The game doesn't really start to get too difficult yet at this point, so let's just move on to the post-night 3 minigame. In the post-night 3 minigame, we really just want to get out of the building at this point. We meet a guard who says that the crowd outside is still going spastic. As we try to walk outside, I'm assuming we start hallucinating? I'm not really sure because I have no idea what else I'm looking at could possibly even be. And the minigame comes to a close.
I'm too paranoid. You need to just get us out of here. The creatures are multiplying. Just more staring. Listen out for a squeal if something goes wrong over here. Those purple figures always come for us. Just make sure to get rid of them, please.
What's going on over on your end? I keep hearing such strange noises. If you want something out of me, you better keep me satisfied. I don't want whatever is coming for you near me. Ring the bell you were given if one of them is heading to my room, I wouldn't ring that bell all the time, since it is causing noises, of course. Don't be stupid.
Hey, I still can't talk about what I know yet, but I think I know something that may help you in your endeavors. I know some of the quirks of that thing that is hunting you right now. It's very stealthy. You need to keep an eye on it all the time. It may hide in various spots, so make sure to be up to snuff with your surroundings. I don't know much about its chip data, though. I only ever overheard my sister read out some blueprints she picked up on her last workday a few years ago.
Night 4 doesn't introduce anything new, however I do want to take this time to mention a mechanic this game has that makes the entire experience way more difficult than it would normally be. Switching cameras. I know, that may sound like a mechanic that most people wouldn't even think twice about, but it's on this night that Busted can start to get pretty quick when moving around. So quickly moving through the cameras will become important. However, even though there's only 3 cameras, switching through them quickly can prove to be quite nerve-wracking. You cannot click any camera at any time. You can only move to cameras adjacent to the camera you're currently on, which means if you're on camera 1 and want to get to camera 3, you will first have to click on camera 2. Typically, this wouldn't be an issue, but you have to wait for a static animation to play each time you switch a camera before you can switch it again. Sure, the animation itself isn't very long, but when you have to switch as much as you do, that time will quickly add up. Overall, this is more of a nitpick than anything, but it is something I noticed during my playthrough, which you can see on my second channel, Dxtr Black. The post-night 4 minigame is a little bit weird. We play as the ghost we saw at the end of the post-night 2 minigame. We walk around the building, talking to children and guards, hearing messages like, "I blame you," and "How can we punish you?" Eventually, we find the body of another child. We say that we can restore it, and upon coming into contact, we get the message, "You must kill them for me."
Just one more to go. Once you left last night, I heard a strange tumbling noise outside. It was metallic and heavy. I don't know what it was, but it may be coming for you this time. Nothing rings a bell, but every time I heard some alarm, it would scamper. I don't think whatever it was likes noise. You have something to play noise? Yes. Please use that to keep yourself safe, but only if it sounds like it's coming close. Using noise at the wrong time may cost you.
You better get me out of here ASAP! I'm done playing these games. If it weren't for that guy holding a pistol to my hand for telling you my information early, I would have been long gone. Get it together! I'm tired of talking to you. Then get on with it!
I heard some ruckus outside, friend. I recognized the weird noise pattern from the debugging process from upstairs. Someone was altering the mascot's code. I know this just because of my sister's curiosity.
She brought back some pink robot from her workplace to show me how messed up her work environment was. That thing was tossed in the end. It couldn't move regardless, but the same debugging process intro pattern she used was similar to the one I heard upstairs last night. I can only assume that the two systems are related, most likely by the same manufacturer. All I know is that those old models never liked being looked at after some wear and tear. We flashed a light on the pink thing and it sparked a little. It was a very strange find indeed. Well, I hope you can use this information to your advantage tonight. Let's hope we can see the sun once more. Night 5 introduces one final threat. I know, guys, I've been lying constantly throughout this video, but I prefer to call it keeping you on your toes. The final threat introduced is Subject Model 3A, being another annoying character. He will wander around your cameras and you just have to make sure you're not looking at him. If you look at him for too long, I'm assuming you can guess what happens to you. Major bun pounding, salad tossing, you get it. Don't look at him. Overall, he really doesn't add anything new to the mix, really just making it more annoying to keep track of Busted. But if you can complete it, we'll move on to the final minigame. In this final minigame, we play as a child, walking around the restaurant following what appears to be the ghost of a child. We follow them into the back room where the first kid was killed and speak to one of the animatronics. They apologize for what they did to us, probably in reference to killing us. They said their chip made them do it, and explained that someone else is pulling the strings and making the robots kill people. It ends off by telling us we will never see it again and to leave. Then the minigame comes to a close.
Andrew Vargas, it seems you have found your way. We cannot say we are surprised at your feat, especially considering your perseverance was quite equal to your past endeavors. You found your sources, exactly what you wanted. Though, did you ever think to look for more data you could use towards your search? The patients you have saved do not hold all of the information, but just enough for you to draw a plausible conclusion. Regardless of your intentions with the data you hold, your time here is over. You have what you came for, but do you feel empty with what you hold? That is a question that will be left in the air for you to grasp. For now, you may take your prized patients outside of this facility with you until you find your true desire and recollection. We thank you for playing our game.
I can't believe it! You did it? I'm free from this place? Oh, I must tell you what I know. Well, okay, I was a producer for one of the most popular animatronic performer shows a few years back. I was vital, but I got to the point where I knew too much. And that is how I wound up here. This man was someone I used to work with. He created these things for his own entertainment business. But he eventually took it too far. He created a powerful computer to control all of his creations from a distance, with whatever behavior he wanted. He always left his plans on his work desk, but one day he felt like something was off. Some grew suspicious of his projects, myself included. But I never took it as far as this one group of people. They were dedicated to finding his grand computer. They went as far as setting up hidden cameras around the building to track anything they could. Anything that could leave a trace back to its whereabouts. But they never found it, because the man attacked and killed one of them. I saw it on old discarded footage. That is all I know. I hope this helps you.
It took you long enough? Let's make this conversation quick. I was one of the construction employees set to renovate the supply and storage facility for future use. It was gonna be under some childish name like Busters, I think. I was the only one that showed up to the job early, like always. I got to one of the storage trucks I left outside, and that's where my life took a turn. They had a rotting corpse and dismantled robots in that truck, man. A rotting corpse! You could never understand how disgusting that was to see face to face. Sucker fell right out of the truck too, like it was last in line. It was in some blue wreck of a mascot suit. It had a camera stuffed in its mouth. It was horrible. I think you get it now. I went to go get my bag and quit my job, but some gray thing grabbed me and pulled me deeper into that building. Next thing you know, I was dangling for my life. Awesome, right? Well, it pulled me past some satellite. It was covered in those dumb white masks you've seen. The same one the guy is wearing. It's all some weird gimmick. But I know what that gimmick is for. That satellite was being used to get that white rabbit robot back from the depths of the forest, right off of Brickview Boulevard. It had to have been made for that. I'm no fool. I knew about that white monster rumor, and I even went hunting for it one time with the boys. It has to be linked. That's all I got for you. We better not come into contact like this again.
I have to owe you something for your determination, my friend. I'm honored. Oh, right, I do owe you something. I have something to tell you. Before this, I was an aspiring mechanical engineer. Machines have always enticed me, so I had been studying it for months prior to this incident. As you know, my sister had worked at that old supply and storage facility years ago. She was my main inspiration for this interest of mine. That night, when she came home with that pink robot, changed everything for me. We dug into the hardware of the robot ourselves. Our father had some spare tools in the garage, so we didn't have to rip into it to damage the thing even worse. We found a lot of weird oddities. One of the most obvious ones was its back. It had the tips of endoskeleton fingers buried in the suit piece, like it was torn apart by one of its own. Another one was its eye. We found a serial number printed in a fine black font face in the back of the eyelids, but it only routed to a 404 page on our home computer. Lastly, it had a code written on the inside of each of the suit parts. It read Model Pound 3C. I don't know the significance of the C. Maybe it was part of a trio, unless there are models with parts 3D or more. We extracted the chip from the robot, though. It was in a very rough condition, but it was somewhat intact. It even had a USB slot in it, which was extremely new at the time. We plugged the cord into our home computer, but it pulled up a ton of strange prompts. We clicked through all of them and found a folder with many text files inside of it. A lot of it was just a garbled mess, but some had what seemed to be addresses. They were impossible for us to decipher fully. Was this animatronic generation holding locations? That's the strange part. What's even more strange is that it had a file named task.txt amongst all the other distorted file names. We opened it, but for some reason the USB had ejected itself. We tried plugging it back into the computer, but it wouldn't pick it up again. All I was able to see before it disconnected was something along the lines of, "He must see what I have done, and maybe he will realize he should have stayed by my side and know what I'm doing." That's all that I know, friend. See you on the other side.
Project Readjusted's story doesn't throw the answers at you. It gives you pieces, conversations, job descriptions, weird one-liners, and you're meant to piece together what was really happening behind the walls of Buster's Diner World. But once you line everything up, the picture is pretty clear. Two employees start a project they don't fully understand. It gets out of control, and one of them ends up paying the price for it. It all starts after Buster's shuts down. The public thinks the place is done, the animatronics are boxed up, and everyone has moved on. But Diner World Entertainment hasn't. They're still in the building, still tinkering, and still trying to push something forward. Something they only ever call the project. And at the center of it are two people, Andrew Vargas and his co-worker, Matthew. The two are exploring the closed building long after hours, checking the animatronics, looking through old hardware, and trying to locate something hidden deep inside the cast. Something the company wants extremely badly. A special chip connected to a hostile presence in the animatronics. They can't pull it out safely, they can't study it while it's roaming, and they can't risk handling it directly. So their entire plan is built around one thing: lure the entity into range, pull the chip, replace it, and get out. But they can't do it themselves. They need someone to sit in the office every night, act like a regular night guard, and unintentionally draw the animatronics towards them so Andrew and Matthew can track the patterns. That's where Hayden comes in. On paper, Hayden is just watching the cameras for 6 short nights. In reality, he's bait. Everything he sees, Buster, Glancer, Redeemer, all of it is part of a larger plan to drag this thing out. And for the most part, the plan works. The animatronics are active, the patterns are recorded, the project moves into its second stage. But then something happens that completely derails Matthew. Someone else breaks into the building. A man who isn't supposed to be there. Someone snooping around who gets far too close to whatever Andrew and Matthew are doing. The fandom calls him the spy, and Matthew panics. Instead of letting their secret get out, he kills the intruder. Not an accident, a choice. And it's the moment everything changes. Andrew is horrified, Matthew goes quiet, and from that point on, the two of them aren't on the same page anymore. Not long after that, Matthew disappears. No goodbye, no confession, no explanation. He's just gone. And Andrew is left with two things: a project he no longer trusts, and a friend who might have destroyed himself trying to finish it. When Project Readjusted 2 begins, we're not playing as Hayden anymore. We're someone closer to the company, a technician finishing their final assignment for Diner World Entertainment. This job isn't about survival, it's about data. Watching animatronic behavior, tracking motion patterns, feeding information back into whatever the project is turning into. And in the background of all of this, someone, heavily implied to be Andrew, keeps repeating the same thoughts. He's been gone for so long. I need answers. Where did he go? The entire game feels like Andrew trying to keep the company satisfied while quietly searching for any clue about Matthew's disappearance. Meanwhile, the animatronics are no longer just mascots. They're infested, corrupted, wired shut, and torn open. The prototypes that were experimented on long after Buster's closed. The project has clearly moved forward, and whatever they pulled from those animatronics is now being pushed into something else, something bigger, something human. And Andrew eventually gets the lead he's been waiting for, something that points away from Buster's, away from the diner entirely, and into a new location, a facility the company is tied to, a place where living subjects are being kept alive for testing. And to follow this trial, Andrew makes a deal, a job offer he can't refuse, something that promises answers about Matthew at a cost. That's where Project Readjusted 3 picks up. Andrew is now inside this medical facility, sitting in a monitoring booth, watching over patients who can't leave their rooms. His job is to keep them alive by sending supplies down long, empty hallways, making sure they don't lose consciousness, and trying not to get killed by something stalking him in the dark. A twisted, hulking version of Buster that shouldn't even exist in a place like this. But the deeper Andrew goes, the more obvious it becomes that this facility is just the project's final phase. The animatronics were only the beginning. The chip, the patterns, the experiments. All of it was leading to human testing. And somewhere inside this building, one of the patients isn't just another victim. He's the thing Andrew has been searching for since the moment Matthew vanished. Matthew didn't run. He didn't escape. He didn't move on. He was taken, absorbed into the same project he helped build. In Project Readjusted 3, Matthew is the subjected member, a living test subject altered by the very experiments he and Andrew once tried to control. And that's the real truth behind Project Readjusted. A company digs up something dangerous hidden inside their animatronics. 2 employees tried to pull off a secret extraction. Someone dies, one of them vanishes, and years later the entire operation has grown into a human experimentation program, with Matthew trapped at the center of it, and Andrew desperately trying to undo the damage. This game never spells everything out, and the dev has even said the full story was never completely written down, but from what everything we do see, the trilogy comes down to a single idea. They started the project together, Andrew survived it, Matthew didn't. But as far as I could gather, and as far as I'm aware, that's all Project Readjusted has to offer. There was supposed to be a final installment, Project Readjusted 4 Jet Black, but it was cancelled due to scheduling conflicts and the pair incident of Game Jolt, which I'm not going to dive into today. Maybe another time. Overall, I think each game in this series progressively got better and better. I think the story I was able to piece together is really interesting and very good, but I really wish it was more concrete so I didn't have to speculate as much as I did. Project Readjusted 3 is a phenomenal FNAF game and one of the most creative I've ever seen, and I highly recommend you give this series a try. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think Project Readjusted is actually just a confusing dumpster fire? The lore of Five Nights at Freddy's fan games, something I'm typically not interested in. However, occasionally a fan game will come around that actually catches my attention, and the game we'll be covering today is one of those games. However, I actually didn't care about the story at all until I got to the third game. That's right, the game we'll be talking about today is a big one. 3 games in total to go over, and I promise there will be plenty of salt along the way. Join me today as we dive into the ups and downs of Five Nights at Maggie's. Maggie's doesn't throw us into a story right away, instead just starting how the original FNAF begins, with a newspaper of a job notice for a security guard. We take the job, not knowing who our character is, and jump right into the first night, where we can already talk about a game mechanic choice that I can't quite wrap my head around. First, let's talk about the office. It's so incredibly simple that it is somehow more basic than the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 office. You have 2 directions you can turn. One direction has the cameras, and the other side has a single door. Now let's talk about the mechanic that makes me question what the developer was thinking. How do you think the camera system operates? Maybe a camera map with buttons? Maybe using the arrow keys to surf through the cameras? All wrong. You have to use the number keys on your keyboard. I have to use the number keys? Really? That's awful. I actually have to use, I can't touch the buttons with my mouse. Let me tell you why this is so awkward. Because of your flashlight. Your flashlight is used to flash the doorway behind you and the vent underneath your desk. Your flashlight is controlled by your control key, and of course, because it's a FNAF game, you have to use your mouse for everything. So you have one hand to use 8 of your number keys and the control key. This leads to an overall awkward controlling experience, but that could just be a nitpick. It was just the first thing I noticed. To talk about the characters that Night 1 introduces, let's start with the main character herself, Maggie. Maggie is as basic as you can get in this game. Spoiler alert, all of these characters are basic. Maggie will move around the cameras and eventually make her way to your door. When she's there, all you have to do is hold the door closed until you hear her leave. This is where you'll notice something interesting about this game. There is no power system in this game. And if you think that it will be balanced somewhere else so that this generosity isn't easily abused, you would be wrong. You can hold the door closed the entire night. But we'll talk about the strategy of this game a bit later. The next character introduced on this night is Lola. Lola does the exact same thing as Maggie in the exact same way. Kinda got you got an hourglass going. Lola is the best. In bed? What is wrong with me? She even goes through the exact same cameras and is also dealt with by using the doors. Something you'll notice about later nights is that Maggie or Lola is pretty much consistently in your hallway at all times, leading to you needing to hold the door closed pretty much the entire night, forcing you to look at this stupid fucking John McAdam in the fucking eyes. The final character introduced on Night 1 is Chanchy, the fat-ass pig, aka your mom. Chanchy has a random chance to appear on any camera whenever you switch to one, acting exactly as Phantom Chica. If you look at him for too long, he will fuck your shit up like my buddy fucks up grilled cheese sandwiches. And let me tell you, that guy eats the shit out of grilled cheese sandwiches. However, once we talk about the ultimate strategy a bit later, you'll quickly learn how Chanchy will pretty much never be a problem. Overall, if you know how to use your noggin a little bit, you may notice that all 3 of these characters can be dealt with by just holding the door closed the entire night and never doing anything. Hold your left click down, take a nap for 6 minutes, and then we'll start talking about Night 2. Night 2 introduces the final 2 characters this game has to offer. That's right, guys, it's about to get crazy. Not really, but let's talk about these 2 new assholes. Let's begin with Hank. Hank will try to enter the vent underneath your desk. Once he's there, he'll make a sound cue. Simply look under your desk and flash him with your light and he'll go away. However, there is a chance he will stay in the vent instead of going back to the stage, except the side effect is he will still make a sound cue when you have to flash him again, so this really isn't as scary as it sounds. Flower is the other character added on this night, and guys, come in real close for me. Would you believe me if I told you Flower was exactly the same as Hank? Well, guess what? She is. Quite literally the exact same mechanic. So nothing too much you'll have to worry about. There you go. That's every character in the game. Just kidding. I actually lied to you. There is one final character we have to talk about, except here's the thing. I don't know its name. I think it's Guppy, but that could be entirely wrong. Guppy appears on the cameras in Camera 3. Guppy acts as this game's Foxy. You will have to watch him on the cameras to prevent him from moving. If he gets up and leaves, guess what? Dead. Ass souffle. However, since every main night after this one doesn't add anything new, it's time we talk about this game's disgustingly broken strategy. So, stay focused because it's super complicated. Basically, once the night starts, instantly turn to camera 3 to stall Guppy. Then turn around and hold the door closed, even if nobody is there. If at any point you hear a vent noise, quickly turn around and flash the vent, then turn back around and hold the door closed again. There you go. You've just beat the game. This strategy successfully stalls Guppy, ignores Chanchy since you're never switching cameras, keeping the doors closed long enough that nobody will ever get in, and will handle the vent animatronics more than adequately. Nights 2, 3, 4, and 5 can all be handled using this strategy. This is by far this game's biggest downside. It is so easy that it's boring. The majority of this game is spent staring at this stupid fucker's face. I hate this guy's fucking smile. Look at this piece of shit. Ugly ass, fuck ass boy. John McAdams. More like John McFat-ums. Am I right or am I right? Yeah, I'm right, I know. You guys can laugh. No, you can laugh, it's okay. It's okay, I know I'm funny, it's okay. Now, you might have noticed I mentioned that strategy only works up to night 5, and that's because I lied again. There's another character we have to talk about that's integrated on night 6. I don't know his actual name, and fuck you, I'm just gonna call him Porky since that's what I called him in my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Porky Pig acts as this game's final boss character. Night 6 is impossible. Kind of. Porky Pig can attack both your door and your vent. He also moves at the speed of fucking sound. He will go from your door to your vent in the span of 2 seconds. Now, here's where it gets impossible, and the funny story that goes along with this. So, here's the hilarious extra mechanic with Porky. He can actually be at your door and in your vent at the exact same time. If he's at your door and you close it, you will hear him in your vent. Not there's a chance. No, you will hear him attack your vent. So you might think you should flash him in the vent. So you go to turn around. But the moment you let go of your door, you get fucked. What the fuck, dude? What the fuck is that? I hear the vent noise. I did not hear noise hearing him enter the hall. He's in the hall. If I open the fucking door, it doesn't matter where he is in the hall. He just fucking kills me. Since once again, he will be in both places at the same time. Dxtr, that doesn't sound very fun at all. Well, listen to this. Apparently, I played a version of the game where Night 6 was broken, as I received a comment from the game's developer telling me so. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. So what actually happens if you beat Night 6? We get one final newspaper article explaining that the owner of Maggie's, Robert Madden, was found dead in his office from a shot to the head. Of course, since we were the only ones left in the building, we are the main and only suspect. We also learn in this newspaper that our name is Stephen Cadell. The article finishes off by informing the public that the pizzeria's new owner will be Robert's son, who isn't named. Now, I don't know about you guys, but this seems like the perfect murder for a son who really wants to take over his father's restaurant. I'm not throwing any fingers, but I'm just saying, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what this ends up being. Now, you may think I got through this game really quickly, and that's because I did. Five Nights at Maggie's 1 is an incredibly easy and boring game. However, it does pave the way for the super interesting story that the rest of the series tells. So, if you can get over that, then we can talk about Five Nights at Maggie's 2. And I promise, these games are only going to get more and more interesting. let's dive down the rabbit hole. Five Nights at Maggie's 2 is significantly more interesting than the first game in terms of actual gameplay. To start, there are more than two things to look at. This time, on your desk, you have your cameras and a vent. To your left, you have a big hallway, and to your right, you have Guppy sitting dead as fuck in the corner. Want to hear something really great? The cameras in this game also have vent cams. Isn't that just awesome? Just kidding, I know it isn't. In terms of new characters, there really aren't any, just the returning characters from the first game, except this time, they're all withered. Night 1 introduces 3 threats. Let's start with the most basic of the bunch, that being Maggie herself. Maggie will wander around the cameras in an attempt to get to you through the hallway on your left. Once she enters your hallway, she will make a sound cue letting you know that she is there. When she is, you will have to turn to the hallway, pull up your shock button, and shock the hallway to make her piss off. Except you want to hear something really funny? Maggie has the chance to not leave the hallway when you flash her. Why? Because fuck you, I guess. I really dislike blatant RNG mechanics like this in games. It's the same reason why I hate Five Nights at Freddy's 3 and its bullshit 1 in 7 dick that it pulls. So maybe you don't want to have to deal with the chance of that RNG AIDS. Can you stop Maggie from reaching your hallway? Well, yes, actually you can. Inside of the cameras, you will find a play sound button, which, as the name suggests, will emit a sound on whichever camera you use it on. Maggie does not like this sound, so if you use it on the camera she's on, she will move backwards. Except I actually just lied to you. Remember how I said this was a way to avoid the stupid fucking RNG that Maggie pulls at the door? Well, guess what, fucker? That's right, she pulls the same RNG bullshit in the cameras too, except somehow it's even worse. Maggie has a chance to move forward a camera instead of backwards a camera when the sound button is used, actually making her progress to your hallway even faster. Isn't that just what you want? Hey, I just fucking sounded you, asshole. Don't act like I wasn't on top of that shit. So the way to deal with Maggie comes down to just completely ignoring her in the cameras and letting her attack your hallway, since you're going to have to deal with the RNG regardless. You might as well just put your focus somewhere else and only focus on her when you hear her in the hall. The second character Night 1 introduces is Chanchy. Wanna guess what he does? If you said the exact same thing as Maggie, you'd be absolutely right. And the best part? He also has the chance to be a complete dickhead and ignore everything all the time. Want to shock him out of your hall? Well, maybe he's feeling like keeping his fat ass right there. Want to prevent him from parking his fat ass right there with the sound button? Well, maybe he's feeling like getting to your hallway even faster. Fuck it. Okay, fine. So another character that's better off being ignored until an attack. That's not so bad. What about the final threat, Dxtr? Is that one any different? Yes, actually. The final threat introduced on Night 1 is Guppy. I fucking hate Guppy so much it isn't even funny. If you remember, Guppy is in the office with you to your right. Throughout the night, Guppy will try to... how do I say this? Slide his fingers down your crack? Hey, back the fuck up. Back the fuck up, Miss Missy. I tabbed out of the fucking game. The way you stop him is simple. Occasionally check on him and flash your flashlight at him to make him move backwards. The reason why I hate him so much, he makes no noise whatsoever. Not a single peep from this motherfucker right here, and he moves fast, especially on later nights. This guy is so fast, it's infuriating. And because he makes no noise, he's even easier to forget about. I hate him. He is buns. Hot ass, shitty robot. But overall, Night 1 isn't too bad. So let's move on to Night 2, which introduces 3 new threats: Hank, Flower, and Lola. Let's start with Hank and Flower since they both do the exact same thing. These two take advantage of your vents, crawling through them to attack you via the giant vent directly in front of you. If you see them in the vents, you can close whichever vent they're in. When you do, they too can choose to RNG fuck your ass instead of cooperating. The ideal situation will have them go back to the stage, but in all likelihood, it's much more common for them to go nuh-uh and just move to another fucking vent. Isn't that just so awesome? What's the point of even closing the fucking vent if they're just gonna phase through it? Fuck it, I don't care. Here's something really sick about these guys. Once they enter the big vent, that doesn't mean you lose. If they get to the vent in front of you, if you just stare at them for a few seconds, they will go back to the stage. So this brings up another flaw in this game's design. Using the close vent door button is completely useless against these two, because you can deal with them so much more easily by just allowing them to attack and looking at them. So why even bother checking the vent cams for them at all? Well, whatever. What about Lola? What could she do? Well, she acts as a Phantom Chica type of character. She will appear on the cameras randomly. If you stare at her for too long, she will pile drive towards your office through your vents to attempt to kill you. However, you may have noticed a slight flaw. We've already established that there is no need to check the cameras whatsoever. Maggie and Chansey are easily dealt with by letting them attack the hallway, and Hank and Flower are easily dealt with by letting them attack your vent. So is Lola ever a problem? No, and even if she was, when she gets to the vent in front of you, if you just literally look in any direction that isn't directly at her, she will go back to the stage. So again, yet another character that doesn't even need to be worried about. If she's in your vent, just don't look for a few seconds. Sure, she will also disable your cameras for a little bit when she attacks, but we've already established your cameras are pretty much a fucking rock, so that really doesn't matter. Something interesting about Maggie's games is that they don't have any post-night bullshit nobody cares about. So we can just get right into night 2, where we can talk about the first legitimate threat of a character, Porky Pig. Remember him? Yeah? The guy that made my version of Maggie's One Impossible? Which, by the way, I found out in this game, his name is actually Surdy. Needless to say, I already had some pretty bad blood with this guy. But how bad could he really be, right? Very. Let me just tell you, he can be very bad. Surdy can take the approach of every character we've seen so far except Guppy. He can attack both your hallways and your vents. Fuck the hallway attack, it's dealt with in the same way as Maggie and Chansey, and yes, also has the same bullshit RNG, so does his camera movements. What we really want to talk about is Surdy in the vents, because that's where he becomes a bitch. When Surdy is in the vents, you need to be in full-blown panic mode. Oh god. Oh god, oh god, oh god. Even the game knows how much of a problem Surdy in your vent is, because it literally gives you a fucking warning on your cameras letting you know exactly which camera he's in. Obviously, if there's not a brain in your head, you have to close the vent until he goes away. And now's the time I should mention how these vent doors actually work, and why they make me want to shove a pencil down my urethra and snap it in half. Since there is no power in this game, there obviously has to be some nerf to these doors, but the nerf chosen just makes me piss blood. But that also might be from the pencil, I'm not sure. If at any point you pull down the cameras, the door will open. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. What really makes me want to die is that the door will open even if you switch cameras. So when a door is closed, you're locked in looking at it until whatever is inside leaves. And let me tell you about that. These fat motherfuckers don't move a goddamn inch! Literally, these fuckers will sit there in those vents with the doors closed for what feels like a fucking eternity. And on later nights when Guppy turns into a fucking track star, it makes it really easy to clench your legs so hard and your testicles shatter into 32 small ass pieces. Fuck me in my ass. I was literally turning to you. Literally was turning to you. I got stuck. I was fucked, dude. I was fucking everything had to be fixed. The sound had to be fixed. The fucking vents had to be fixed. My dick had to be fixed. Fixed as fuck. Because you can't just stare at him in the vent to make him piss off like you can with the other vent characters, if he gets to you, your onion rings. Completely Jover. But surely this game can't get any more bullshit, right? Surdy was the last character introduced from the first game, and Dxtr already said that there wasn't any new characters, and Dxtr wouldn't lie to me. He's a YouTuber, and a YouTuber has never lied before, right? Hate to break it to you, Buster. I lied. Night 4 introduces Jerry, the blue fucker. Who the fuck is Jerry? Well, let me tell you about Jerry. Have you ever thought to yourself, golly gee, one Surdy is already a headache to deal with. If only I could add another one. Well, if so, then you're in luck. Did you like one fucking Surdy in your ass? Why not two? Because that's exactly what Jerry is. Surdy 2.0. Except there's one key detail that doesn't really matter, but does just show Jerry was supposed to be the most AIDS character of all time. He's not even affected by the sound button, period. So there was quite literally no way to stop him. And he is fast, like really fucking fast. If he gets to your hallway and decides to bullshit RNG you, guess what, fucker? Game over, because by the time your shock recharges, you'll be dead. But in all honesty, that's not even the worst part. The worst part is without a doubt the fucking Tyson gay guppy over there in the corner. You piece of fucking shit! This motherfucker is so goddamn cocksucking fast it hardly seems fair! Everyone in Night 5 is so fucking fast, they will be sharding in your eyes from the moment you start the night. But the only place they aren't fast? The fucking vents that you can't look away from lest the doors open wide, allowing for any cold metallic robot to penetrate me in the ass and rupture my colon! Fuck! Fuck! Not to mention that Night 5 is so fucking loud, you won't be able to focus on the sound cues whatsoever. I gave up on Night 5. I don't care. This night was bullshit. This game was bullshit. Butt plug. Heart attack inducing fuck. So no, I didn't beat it. I'm not going to beat it. I'll beat my dick, but let's pretend like I did beat it. What happens then? Well, you get given Night 6. Which is even fucking harder. Just a full-blown ass pounding with you as the main victim. I'm glad I didn't make it this far. I'm glad I chose to piss off when I did, because the rate at which all of my teeth would have been plucked out of my skull would have been astronomical had I forced myself through this AIDS. What about beating Night 6? Has anything amazing happened? No, not really. And that's the most upsetting part. We get a final newspaper clipping explaining that the building we were in burned down for an unknown reason. The only suspect is, of course, once again us, since we were the only ones in the building at the time. We also learn that everything was salvaged in the fire and will be used for a new attraction later down the line. So that would lead you to think, how shitty was that fire that everything was salvaged? Must have been a pretty piss poor fire. Perchance a fire started by a person? Very interesting thought, dear viewer. Let's keep our theory heads turning and move on to the next game. But wait, Dexter, what about that text that says fake ending in the corner? Well, to be honest with you, I have no idea why that's there. I've been unable to find any evidence of another ending existing in this game, and my only thought is that the third game is meant to serve as the actual true ending. Not only to the story, but to my suffering, because I actually really liked the third game, and I think you will too. So please, let's stop talking about this fucking slop and move on to something a lot more appealing in Five Nights at Maggie's 3. Five Nights at Maggie's 3 is nothing short of a masterpiece, truly a stark contrast from the two games we've touched on so far. I was honestly incredibly surprised by the amazing step up in quality that this game brought to the table, not only in terms of story, but also in terms of graphics, and most importantly to me, game mechanics. To start, Maggie's 3 opens to a repair minigame. We're tasked with charging up Maggie. We have to open up her chest, snip some wires, and charge them up. Seems simple enough. You'll notice during this minigame that you're able to turn around to see a dark void of a room behind you that you can flash with your light. But you'll also find that nothing is ever there. After charging up Maggie, we're shown 7 rectangles. One of them fizzles out, symbolizing what I can only assume to be the souls of some dead children, even though child murder hasn't even been mentioned in this series so far. But we're not done yet. We're tossed into a minigame directly after this. A man covered in blood walks into a room, explains he needs to hide again, saying he's trapped here and he won't go anywhere. Not knowing who he is, we're thrown into Night 1. Night 1 actually only introduces one threat, that being Lolo, a new character. But before we can start talking about characters, we need to talk about this office and the tools at our disposal. We have 2 doors. Finally, something we can be familiar with. These work the exact way you'd expect them to, so nothing weird there. Of course, we have our cameras, but you might notice something a little bit different about them. There are 3 menus to surf through on your monitor, and only one of them are your typical cameras. The other menus are your main vent and your breakers. The main vent allows you to look at and shine the main vent, and the breakers allow you to remotely turn off the power to the entire building and specific cameras. But we'll talk about why those are important later. The final interesting mechanic is the vent door button on one of your cameras, but that will become important once we talk about 2 certain rascals later in this video. For now, we have to talk about Lolo. Lolo is as simple as a character can get. He is this game's Bonnie. He will move through the cameras and approach your right door. When he's there, simply close the door until you hear him leave, and bada bing bada boom, that cycle will repeat. Again, it's night 1, I don't think you expected anything crazy. Now we can talk about the post-night 2 repair minigame. This time having to repair Bob. Side note, every character in this game aside from 2 are brand new. Same formula as the last minigame, except this time there's actually something in that darkness behind you. Surdy. But this time, it's just his endoskeleton. No mom skin. Your mom specifically. Get it? Because she's a pig? Oink. He will slowly try to creep up on you to kill you. Whenever you hear him, simply turn around and hold your light on him to make him go back. He's very slow these first few nights, but trust me, these minigames can get a little out of control on later nights. After completing the minigame, another rectangle fades away and we get another 8-bit cutscene. This time we see 2 men. One of them goes to make coffee while the other sits to read the newspaper. He begins to read about a serial killer dubbed the Frankenstein. Hearing that name makes the man at the counter freeze. He knows something. After 8 years of silence, the serial killer has re-emerged, taking the life of a 16-year-old boy. The body was found in the John McAdams warehouse, the same building that Five Nights at Maggie's 2 took place in. The man reading the newspaper, named Steve, mentions he thought John himself was the killer, but thinks that it could maybe be his son Henry, who had apparently been missing. He mentions Henry killed someone, but before he can get out exactly who he killed, the man at the counter, named Aaron, asks him to leave. After Steve leaves, Aaron goes over to the table to look at the newspaper, mentioning how he didn't stop and that this isn't over, not mentioning who he actually is. And with that, we go right into Night 2. Night 2 introduces 4 new animatronics. However, it's actually really only 3, and I will obviously be explaining why, since I'd be a pretty shitty reviewer if I didn't. To start, let's talk about Rolf. A very stupid name, by the way. Rolling on the floor laughing ass animatronic. Damn, he got a dick on him though, look at that! Rolf is the first character to take advantage of your main vent camera. You will be able to hear him enter it. Thank God for sound cues, they're honestly probably my favorite part of FNAF games at this point. When you hear him in the vent, simply go to it and hold your light on him until he goes away. Very simple character with a very simple mechanic, but in my opinion, the simple mechanics are the best mechanics, because it allows for your whole roster to not feel completely unfair while dealing with all of them. The next character introduced is Bob the Pig. He works the exact same way as Lolo, except he attacks your left door instead of your right. Really nothing else super interesting to note for this character, just this game's Chica. The other 2 characters introduced on this night are Esther and Lester. These 2 animatronics always stay together, which is why I say they're really just one animatronic. They take advantage of the other vent that you can't see on camera 7. Once again, they make a sound cue when they're trying to enter the cam 7 vent. All you have to do is close the vent on that camera and they will quickly go back to their stage. Again, incredibly easy characters to deal with, but from my personal experience, were the easiest to miss. Night 2's post-night repair minigame has us fixing up Lolo. Nothing special. But I do want to talk about the cutscene that Night 2 brings. 2 siblings named Henry and Stacy stop outside of a Maggie's location. Yes, this is the Henry that was mentioned in last night's cutscene. They had a conversation about their mom who died after Stacy was born. It's revealed that their dad works a lot, but we're not told what. It's also hinted that their dad doesn't love Henry in the same way that he loves Stacy. Night 3 introduces the first real, honest threat I think this game has. That being this funny-looking green fellow. You want to take a guess at what his name is? If you said Chomper, you'd be completely fucking wrong because his name is Cracky. Excuse me? Cracky? What a fucked up name. I don't actually know literally any of these characters' names. I know Maggie and I guess Bob now. I'm gonna guess this is Crackle. Fucking on Crackle. I know, I'm hilarious. What can I say? This is what I do for a living. I play Five Nights at Freddy's for a living. For a job. This is my job. Isn't that weird? That's fucking weird. But whatever. Why do I feel this guy is actually a threat? Well, that's because he is this game's first integration of a watch me on the camera mechanic. A mechanic that, if you're familiar with my channel, you know I'm not a huge fan of. You cannot allow Cracky to leave the stage or you will be split open like a double wide surprise. That is fucked, by the way. This looks so fucked. Obviously, all you have to do is stare him down on the cameras, which is not very challenging. But because of a certain character we'll talk about later, Cracky will very quickly become a big problem that you will probably forget about. I want to use this time to talk about the power situation in this game. Being the first in the series to actually use power, I was a bit nervous this would be another SCP endurance case where you have absolutely no power throughout the entire game. But to my surprise, it was actually the complete opposite. You actually have a ridiculous amount of power in this game. So much so that for the first few nights, I had the cameras up the entire night, while also closing the Cam 7 vent the entire time as well, and still completed the night with a decent amount of power remaining. You do not have to think about power conservation in this game, which I really appreciate. Night 3's post-night repair minigame has us repair Cracky, and it's on this night that Surdy really starts to get quick. So this is probably the point of these segments where they will start to take a long time to complete. The cutscene that plays after this segment is one of the most disturbing I've seen since Five Nights at Candy's 3. Stacy and her dad are in the dark talking to one another. Stacy mentions how scared she is. Her dad gives her a sleeping pill, explaining that after she wakes up, she'll feel better than she ever has before in a brand new body. After Stacy falls asleep, a shock lights up the room, revealing that Stacy had been electrocuted to death. Attempting to cement her soul inside of one of the machines, his experiment fails, and he's left to cry alone inside of the room with his daughter's corpse. This is easily one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen come out of a FNAF game. Not because of what we directly see, but because of the idea of what John did to his own flesh and blood. Five Nights at Maggie shows proof that you can tell stories about incredibly horrendous things in an interesting and not overtly edgy way. With all of the shortcomings I feel this game series has, I can easily say that the story is not one of them. Moving on to Night 4, we're introduced to the two final characters this game has to offer, Maggie and of course, Surdy. Let's start with Maggie since she's simple. She works in the exact same way that Rolf does. She attacks through your main vent. All you need to do is hold the flashlight on her and she'll go away. Now we can talk about the big bastard himself, Surdy, who once again, in this game is just an endoskeleton. This guy right here is this game's big challenger. Surdy makes use of your breakers. Occasionally, he will appear on any camera in the building. When he does, he will emit a loud sound. You will have to shut off the breaker to the room he's in, which will deactivate him. This is not difficult. What is difficult is when Surdy is paired with Cracky. With how frequently Surdy will attack, Cracky will very easily be able to get several movement opportunities in on you, leading to you needing to stare at him for longer while the rest of the cast does all of their bullshit. But once again, because of how simple everyone's mechanics are, it serves to make this game tense, but not overtly difficult. Don't get me wrong, I think it's great that max modes exist, and that people are pushing the limits of what's possible with Five Nights at Freddy's games. But not every game needs to be the most difficult thing on planet Earth. Some games just really want to tell a story, and I can appreciate this game for doing so. After beating Night 4, we repair Rolf, and of course get a new cutscene. Henry, now with the alias Stephen Cadell, which if you remember is the name of the player we played as in the first Maggie's, walks into the CEO of Maggie's office with a gun. The CEO, if you remember, named Robert Madden. He reveals he knew that his real name was Henry, reveals that he knows what Henry did, and admits he still never fired him for fear of tarnishing the brand for hiring a fugitive. I'll dive into exactly what Henry did when I talk about the lore later in this video. Henry demands to get his father's experiment files, and when Robert refuses, Henry shoots him in the head. This is the situation that was mentioned at the end of Five Nights at Maggie's 1. Night 5 introduces nothing new, just being a harder version of Night 4. After completing it, you fix both Esther and Lester, and of course, we get another cutscene, which is also pretty disturbing in nature. John McAdams, expecting to see his son home by 11, is still working on his project. Henry, his son, walks in at 12 completely plastered. Henry begins to gaslight his father for not caring about his own children and claims that he's responsible for killing Jason, a brother that up until this point we hadn't heard of. John reveals that he used his animatronics to revive his children from the dead because he loved them. Henry, not knowing any of this had been taking place up until this point, is obviously incredibly upset. Henry ends up killing his father in a fit of rage, and John McAdams' soul is accidentally revived in the animatronic of Surdy. That's right, the final boss of the first two Maggie's games was Henry's dad. So now we have to question, why would his dad be trying to kill him? Once again, Night 6 adds nothing new, just being more difficult than the last. The repair minigame, however, is different. There are no more characters to repair. The only character who remains is Surdy. You must wait for him to appear behind you and shock him. After shocking Surdy, we get something I never expected when I first started playing these games. We get an amazing monologue right up there with the Henry speech from Pizzeria Simulator. I don't want to explain it to you, I'd rather you listen to it. But before I show you it, I think it's time I finally dive into the lore of this game. Our story begins on May 25th, 1975. John McAdams, founder of John McAdams Entertainment, discovers what he believes to be immortality. He hides his experiments behind his company, using the animatronics as a cover for something much more horrifying: the merging of human life with machines. And what better way to test that theory than on your own son? Jason McAdams, age 3, becomes John's first experiment. On June 3rd, 1978, the experiment works. Jason's body moves again, but not like a human. He's primitive, lifeless, hollow. John calls him a success, a prototype, the first step towards eternal life. But it's not enough. John continues his work, kidnapping orphans, experimenting on them, filling his creations with broken souls. The police start investigating, but John's too careful and nothing sticks. Everything he's done stays buried until tragedy strikes his own family. On June 2nd, 1981, John's daughter Stacy is hit by a car after chasing a balloon into the street. She's brought back to her father, barely alive, and John sees another chance. He tries to revive her using the same process that brought Jason back. It fails, and what's left of Stacy dies in his arms. In Five Nights at Maggie's 1, you can actually hear John crying during one of the tapes. That is this moment. A year later, everything falls apart. On August 26, 1982, John's last surviving son, Henry, comes home drunk, furious, covered in stains, and done with his father's bullshit. He accuses John of killing his siblings, of caring more about his machines than his family, and for once, he's right. John tries to justify it, saying he only wanted to bring them back, that he did this because he loved them, but Henry heard enough. He kills his father right then and there, but death doesn't stick in this family, because the next day, John wakes up again inside the Surdy animatronic. His experiment worked, but at the cost of his own humanity. The man who wanted immortality finally got it, but in the most twisted way imaginable. Years pass, and Henry goes into hiding under a new name, Stephen Cadell. On May 3rd, 1985, he takes a job at Maggie's Magical World as a night guard, seemingly just looking for cash. But through old VHS tapes, he learns the horrifying truth. His father is still alive inside Surdy. Henry tracks down Robert Madden, the new CEO of John McAdams Entertainment, and demands his father's research. Robert admits he's known who Henry really is this entire time, but never fired him because it would tarnish the company's image. So Henry does what the McAdams family does best. He kills him. He stands on business. But even that isn't the end. In 1992, a new serial killer surfaces. The media calls him the Frankenstein. Victims are found mutilated, fused with machine parts, and all signs point to one name: John McAdams. Somehow, he's still out there, using the Surdy suit to continue his experiments. Henry, now under yet another alias, Aaron Meyer, realizes his father will never stop, and if he can't destroy him, he has to contain him. But this story isn't just about the McAdams family. Around the same time, another branch of the company is causing problems of its own. Back in 1980, two men were hired to perform as Springlock entertainers at a restaurant called Surdy and Jerry's. They were taught how to use the suits by Daniel Gennaro, the son of the restaurant's founder, Manuel Gennaro. When Manuel died, Daniel took over and rebranded the place into Guppy's Magical World, adding new characters like Cracky and Guppy. Everything was fine until 1988, when both performers suffered Springlock failures live on stage. One jumped off mid-performance, the other tried to save him, and both ended up crushed inside their suits. They die instantly, only to possess the animatronics they performed in. Daniel, being the charming piece of shit he is, mocks their death, saying the only real problem the company would ever have is if kids went missing. And sure enough, soon after, they do. Surdy and Jerry, now possessed, start killing children, souls that would later inhabit Maggie, Lola, and Chanchy in the first two games. Eventually, in 1990, a sister location called Maggie's Magical World opens and the pattern repeats. More kids vanish, and an investigator, our playable character, takes a job trying to uncover the truth. Each night, we explore a different location, finding drawings, blueprints, newspaper clippings, everything pointing towards what's really been happening behind the scenes. By night 4, we find a hidden room behind the show stage. It's filled with evidence and notes from a previous investigator, the same one who went missing. When we report everything to our boss, he fires us, calls us crazy, and closes the case. So we leak the evidence online, the internet takes over, and the investigation reopens, exposing both Maggie's and Guppy's for what they really were. It's later revealed that everything we did, everything we learned, was told to us by Surdy himself. He's old, broken, but aware. A robot reflecting on his past life, telling us how everything fell apart. It's one of the most haunting story choices in any Five Nights at Freddy's game I've ever seen. But it's not just about what happened, it's about who's left to remember it. Decades pass. It's now May 10th, 2021. Henry McAdams returns one final time to the same company that destroyed his family, but this time, he's not there to work. He's there to end everything. Having studied his father's research, Henry manipulates Surdy's systems to lock his father's soul inside of the metal shell permanently. No voice, no movement, no escape. After nearly half a century of murder, obsession, and tragedy, John McAdams is finally forced to face eternity, the very thing he was chasing all along. And that's what makes this story so fascinating. Five Nights at Maggie's isn't just another FNAF clone. It's a full-blown tragedy about legacy, obsession, and consequence. A father chasing immortality, a son chasing redemption, and both of them becoming monsters in the process. It's poetic, it's grim, and for a fan game, it's shockingly well told. John McAdams may have discovered immortality, but in the end, he lost everything that made him human. And Henry, he may have stopped his father, but he had to become just like him to do it. So, before we listen to that final monologue, just remember this. No one in this story found eternal life. They just found eternal suffering.
19 years. 19 years trying to stop you. 19 years studying your findings. Your horrible experiments. The immortality you were seeking all this time. And I did it. I made it work. Let me tell you, I was about to give up. But you made a bad choice to try it one last time. Lester Arias. That death. That was the last straw. That's how I knew that you were not going to stop. Not even in that body. I've been studying your blueprints and analyzing your tapes for longer than I can remember. And let me tell you, you made quite a few mistakes. Yes, you did achieve immortality with full consciousness in your body. But still, Your movements were limited. Being sensitive to light, to sound. I thought John McAdams was smarter than that. Don't worry. Your son, the failure, the disgrace to the family, fixed all those problems for you and finally made it work. Or something like that. You see, I didn't want the kids to be in those bodies. They deserved a better life. They deserved a normal childhood. Play with kids their age, go to school, and socialize like normal human beings. You took that away from them a long time ago. They deserved to rest, once and for all. Jason and Stacy, they are resting from the hell you put them through. All of them finally free. But for you, I had a very special plan. I didn't know if I should show all the things you've done to the world. On one hand, it would have brought peace to the people who were still terrified of the dreaded Frankenstein. But I decided to keep your reputation intact. You are still the great John McAdams. To some extent. Most people have forgotten you after the company went under a couple of years ago. I knew that if I brought this to light, your name would make a comeback, and I didn't want to give you the pleasure. That's why I decided to grant you your wish of immortality, but with a little twist. I wanted to make sure you feel the hell that you put Jason, Stacy, and all the other kids through. So, I added a few changes. You won't be able to speak. You won't be able to move. You will have no control over your body. You will still see, feel, and hear everything. You will live for eternity inside that machine with nothing more to do but see how your work, your name, and your wish of being remembered like some kind of god vanishes like the figments of some bad dream. You won't rest. You will suffer for eternity. It's time you pay for your sins, John.
And there you have it. As far as I'm aware, that is everything that Five Nights at Maggie's has to offer. A game series that started off on a sour note for me and ended up becoming one of the most interesting and engaging stories I've ever experienced. I'd highly recommend you give the third game a try, as it is actually a very enjoyable game. The jump in quality between these games is astonishing, and it's so clear that the developer poured everything they had into it, and that's something I can totally appreciate. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think that this series was actually complete perfection the entire way through? Let me know in the comments below. In my SCP Endurance video, I asked you guys who your favorite SCP was and why. My favorite comment was this one by Maincrack. They said SCP-001, and I agree. Honestly, one of the coolest SCPs ever designed, and of course, an absolute classic. The question of this video is, what FNAF series do you want to see me cover next, and why? With the question of the video being asked, subscribe to the channel, I'd appreciate it a lot. Thank you to all of my Superfan channel members, you mean the world to me. I've been Dexter, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya!